And welcome in to the weekend sports kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson. Today, I am joined by Ryan, Elliott, Jacob, Blair, and making his weekend sports kickoff debut, Kramer. Is it Sansone?
Sansone, yeah.
Sansone. Okay, I got it right. I was really worried about that. I forgot to ask you about before the show started. But Kramer's here with us, and we're going to talk about Bearcat sports to start the show today. Yeah, not great as they went to Nebraska-Kearney last night, the men and the women. We'll start with the women first. They went to double overtime versus Kearney, who was coming today 12-3 last night, and they were 4-3 in conference play. And Northwest stuck with them through all the way to the end, but Kearney came away with an 88-79 win. Just that double overtime, they couldn't get anything going on offense, and Kearney pulled away late for the win. But if you're the girls, you almost got to take this as a teaching moment, like, hey, we were in this game versus a pretty good opponent in Kearney, and all the way to the end, we had a chance to win it. Maybe even probably should have won it in the end. Tanya Meyer led the team with 27 points and 5 assists. She had a nice game, also had 14 rebounds. Just couldn't quite pull it out in the end.
Well, and I think, you look at this team, and for all the struggles that this team has had early in the year, all of the problems that they've had, all the games that they've lost to teams that they probably shouldn't have lost to, and you get into a game like this and you compete with a team like Kearney, the effort that they put out last night would have beaten at least half the teams in the conference. It just so happened that they were playing one of the better teams in the conference, and Kearney had a girl that went for 43, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
tied the school record for Kearney.
Yeah, and so, it was a great effort and an incredible feat just to get to double overtime with a team like Kearney, because that's a good basketball team. And so I think the women did a really good job, and something that they can kind of hang their hat on and be proud of, that they fought with a team like that. And I think that they know now that if they put out that performance again against most of the opponents in the MIAA, they'll have a good chance of winning the ball game.
And there's definitely been an uptick in this women's team here in the last several weeks, and they're playing a lot better than their record shows. And once they get that first win, they find out how to finish a game. I think we'll start seeing some more wins rolling. Monday they competed for 3.5 quarters with Central Missouri and looked really good, and just had some things go bad late in that game.
Same thing happened on Saturday in the game I called versus Southwest Baptist. They were up by 11 going into the fourth quarter and just kind of fell apart in that fourth quarter. Same thing. I was there for the UCM game while you and Austin were calling the game, and it was just they were right there. They were right there competing with some of the better teams in the conference, because we said Central Missouri, they're undefeated in conference right now. They stuck with them for 3.5 quarters. Baptist, they're middle of the pack, and Kearney right now sitting tied 6th in the conference. They're competing with teams in the conference who are pretty good, who have winning records, who are almost proven commodities down in the conference. They just can't quite get over that hump. And they got Fort Hays on the road on Saturday, who is 4-4 in conference and 13-4 overall. So it may be a chance that they play versus Kearney to compete in that game as well over in Hays, Kansas.
Well, I'll tell you what, these next two opponents for this Northwest team are teams that, if they play the way that they did against Kearney, they'll have a really good chance against Hays, and then Missouri Western, the next opponent for Northwest at home, one of the teams that toward the bottom of the conference. If they can play the way they did against Kearney, it's a win over Missouri Western, I think 10 times out of 10. So you've just got to take your mind back to that performance against Kearney and think, okay, we've got to play this way next time, because it's going to be, it's going to be just as difficult.
See, even yesterday, Coach Buck Shield, I should say, he was happy with how they performed the entire game yesterday, because they were second half, they were leading most of the game. And then, of course, they came back, Nebraska-Kearney did, but during his post-game press conference, when he was talking to John, he was so happy in how they performing. So this is a plus side for him.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at Hays, they're usually one of the better teams in the conference. A little bit down this year, but Missouri Western, that team's been up this year, especially as of late. They've lost 5 straight and 7 of their last 8 games. So they're a team that's really been reeling. I know the last couple of games versus Hays, they only had 6 girls who were healthy enough or eligible enough to play. And against them, they got blown out by Hays. In the game before that versus Southwest Baptist, they lost it. But they had to finish the game with only 4 girls on the floor between foul trouble and injuries. So they're really reeling right now. So Northwest might get them at a good time next Saturday, kind of depending on how the health of their players are going. So Northwest, definitely an opportunity for the women. And, of course, next Saturday, January 27th, Northwest Missouri State Bearcats basketball teams host the rival Missouri Western. Wear your cleanest white shirt to Bearcat Arena for the annual whiteout game. The women's game starts at 1:30 with the men following at 3:30. Prizes and giveaways will be available at the game. So that's what's going on next weekend. But before we go to that, yes?
And you can join me and Jenny James for our broadcast on X106.
Yes, you will. Those two will be doing the game, as Jenny's going to do her first basketball broadcast for us. And, of course, Ryan, one of our stalwarts here, we doing the game.
Would you just call me?
Or stalwart. So that's what's going on there for the women, of course. At Hayes on Saturday, at Western next Saturday, and then 2 more home games the following week, Thursday, Saturday versus Lincoln and Lindenwood. Lincoln, the only other team in the conference without a conference win. So
an interesting change to a 2:00 start
yes,
on Saturday. I don't know. I'm not sure why they changed that
because
it was initially listed when I looked at the schedule the first time. It was listed as a 1:30 start, and so I don't know why they changed it or if they changed it at all. Maybe they just had it listed wrong on the schedule to begin with, but.
All right, there's a little bit of a weird scheduling thing there, but then we go to the men now. Tough loss for them. Lost to a 7-10 Kearney team now, 3-5 in conference play, 66-59. They were down. The Bearcats were down 4 at halftime, and I'll just go through some of the shooting numbers for the team last night. It wasn't good.
You don't need to. That's not necessary.
It is necessary to kind of paint a picture. Pitts was 4 of 16. Endow was 4 of 13, and Doherty was 4 of 10. Wittes 3 of 8. Kurth was 3 of 6, which isn't bad for him. Welty 2 for 3. Hawkins didn't take a shot. I mean, they just struggled 35% from the field. And they're bad both 36 first half and just over 35% in the second half. So they just weren't shooting well last night. It really hurt them against the Kearney team that can score some points. And their Lane Rorich, I think his name is, he was 10 of 12 from the field for 24 points. I mean, it's hard to beat a team when you're not shooting well. They have one guy who's shooting lights out from the field.
Right. Well, when you look at one of the numbers that I look at even more than the shooting percentage is that Northwest only made 4 3-pointers.
4 of 15.
That's not where you want to be if you're this team with such great 3-point shooting ability. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where you can only hit 4 3-pointers in a single game. And only shooting 15 is kind of a low number that I was surprised to see from them as well. But here's the deal. I mean, Coach Mack said it best earlier in the week, I believe, when he said, any given night, this conference is good enough that if you have an off night, the other team plays well, that's a loss. Any team in this conference is good enough to beat you if you have a bad night and they have a good one. And that's exactly what happened against Kearney. Northwest came out and they just didn't show up. They were. Coach Mack said, they were flat. They weren't motivated. They weren't hungry, and Kearney took advantage of that and came out with a W as a 7-10 ball team. That doesn't happen very often to one of the top teams in the country. But if you come out and don't play the game you want to, then it will.
Yeah, one thing for this men's team that seems to kind of have been a problem all season long is they don't start the games very strong. A lot of times at halftime, most of their games are close. There's been a couple really good first halves, but a lot of the time when they're pulling the 12, 14, 16-point wins, it's all second half. And this game, you look at the first half stats, they were down 4, kind of right where they've been all year, and then they just, when you're not playing bad, sometimes it's hard to get stuff going and unable to make anything happen over there in Kearney.
No, that's very true. Like, they are a second-half team, and to be able to want to be at the ability of like last year, they need to start scoring more in the first half. But yesterday, there was like a lid basically on the basket the whole entire night. It was like ridiculous. But
yeah, it was, and I know Isaiah Swan, I can't find his Twitter account because I'm not logged into Twitter here, but he put on Twitter last night the quote from Coach Mack where Coach Mack pretty much took responsibility for not getting the team up to play this basketball game, and their energy just hasn't been up the last couple of games like to where he wants it to be. And he took it on himself a little bit there and said, hey, I need to get these guys up. It's not just last year's team where we had a bunch of seniors who could motivate with Mosby, who was a great motivator to get all the guys up. He thought he needed to take a little more of a role there to maybe get them pumped up a little more for the game so they don't come out so flat. And this Kearney team they lost to, if you look at their schedule, they've been really good at home and struggled a bit on the road. I mean, they went to Topeka, Kansas, lost to Washburn by 7. That's not a bad loss. I mean,
right.
They've been playing with teams. They beat Missouri Southern and Pitt State both at home this year. I mean,
they put up triple digits on Pitt State,
101-89. Yeah, they can score. This team can score a lot of points. So
Pitt State's good basketball.
Yeah, holding the 66 points is not bad. You just got to be able to score more versus that defense. I mean, they went to Warrensburg and lost to Central Missouri 88-81 in overtime. I mean, this is a good basketball team who is up and down. They went up for Northwest. They came up. Northwest hadn't played out in Kearney since like the 2013-14 season. So it was a big game for Kearney. It was their biggest game of the year. Northwest, you're the defending national champions. You're going to have a target on your back every time you go out there. You have to meet that intensity with your own intensity, and they just didn't do that versus Kearney. And if you don't do that, like Ryan said in this league, you're going to pick up losses because these teams are very talented in this conference.
Yeah. Well, and I think you take a look at what this means for this Northwest team. What this means is they lose control of their own destiny within the conference. They, if you're Northwest, you want to be a basketball team that can say, okay, if we show up and we take care of business the rest of the season, we're in, we're good. We will win the conference. We'll host a regional. Now you have to rely on some help. You have to rely on some help from people within the conference. You need somebody else to beat Washburn, whether it's Central Missouri, who goes to Washburn, I think, in a couple weeks.
I'm looking here next week.
Next week, okay.
27th.
Yeah. They go to Washburn next week. You're going to need some teams that may have to surprise them.
Like they go to Kearney and Hayes the week after that. You just got something in there because Northwest, you can get the head-to-head over them, but you're still a loss behind. Right now, they're 2 losses behind in the column there. That's a big obstacle to overturn.
So you have to rely on another team, and that's not a position you want to be in if you're Northwest. And you have to rely on another team in the regional as well. This, in all likelihood, probably lost Northwest a chance to host the regional, just in the way things are probably going to work out. But, obviously there's still an opportunity, but again, they're going to need some help. And so now your focus goes to, you want to host the regional. Yeah, that would be great. It would be icing on the cake. It would be a great opportunity for the city of Maryville, for Northwest Missouri State University, for everything there. But you got to think that the ultimate goal here is Sioux Falls. The ultimate goal is the Elite Eight. You can't be thinking about, oh, well, we lost the conference, we lost a chance to host the regional. No, your ultimate goal is whether you host the regional, win the conference, or you finish wherever. If you're an 8 seed in the regional coming in, your goal is Sioux Falls.
And one thing on that point is there's still enough games left in the season that if Northwest wins out, it's probably going to take care of itself. They've got one game with Washburn to get one of those games back if they can get that back, but it's going to be hard for Washburn to win out as well beyond that Northwest game, so it might take care of itself. And if they win the conference championship, then that regional's still up for grabs for them, and they might be able to get it.
And the one team you got to worry about when it comes to regional rankings is Northern State, who Northwest did beat earlier this year down in St. Joe for a neutral site game, which is more of a home game for Northwest. They beat them by 11. But if you look at Northern State, they got some quality wins on their resume. They beat Washburn in that same little shootout thing. They already beat Southwest Minnesota State on the road. They beat Missouri Southern in a neutral site game at the Pentagon up in Sioux Falls. So they beat some good teams. They're 19-1 this year. The only loss is to Northwest. They got some tough games ahead of them as well, but if they go only a 1-loss season, it's hard. I know that loss was to Northwest, but it's going to be hard to differentiate. Like, hey, they went through the rest of their season perfect. They lost their one game, which was a quasi-home game for the Bearcats. So that's really tough. You need some help from Northern State if you want to host a tournament, so you don't have to go north for the regional. But it'll be tough. We'll see what happens going forward. But I have confidence they'll bounce back against Hayes like they did versus Pitt State after losing to Southern. I have confidence in that coaching staff and, of course, the players in the court. I don't expect Pitt to go 4 of 16 from the field again.
No.
They were missing a lot of bunnies. I mean, they're missing a lot of shots they usually make. And it's just one of those things. It's just an off night. It's hard to have those, especially college basketball. College basketball is this way where you shoot bad one night and all of a sudden you lose to a team you shouldn't lose to. It happens in college basketball. It's a weird sport with things like that happen. The best team doesn't always win that night. So it's just kind of a thing. You see it in March Madness all the time. There's no reason certain teams lose. There's no reason Missouri should have lost to Norfolk State, but it happened. Norfolk shot out of their mind. Mizzou didn't shoot well. It happens. Next game, Norfolk got blown out because they weren't good enough. It just happens in college basketball, so I can see this happening. Northwest, I think they're going to be able to take care of business. And maybe this will force them to button down a little bit. Like, hey, losing to Southern's one thing. Okay, we always play bad in Joplin, but losing at Kearney was like maybe a wake-up call a little more. Like, okay, we can't take any more losses. We got to buckle down and come out and play with high intensity every single game.
Right, because what this does is, you obviously you don't have to rely on other teams around either the conference or the region, but at the same time, this isn't going to just totally pose a huge detriment to their chances to make it to Sioux Falls. It's not going to pose a huge detriment for their chances to go back-to-back. This is still a team that is in every way a contender for the national title. This is still a team that should be an Elite Eight team, and it's just a matter of the issue with trying to get the number 1 seed and host the region is you have to look at the quality of the losses between Northern State and Northwest. Well, the one loss for Northern State is Northwest, a high-quality loss. The 2 losses for Northwest, not as high quality.
Nope. So that's going to be a big thing to differentiate for those two teams. When regional rankings come out, I believe they'll come out, I want to say the middle of February. I want to say February 14th is when they'll come out. It's just a guess there. So we're still a couple weeks from that happening, at least 3 or 4 weeks from that happening. So a lot of time to build your resume. Also happening in a couple of weeks, the baseball team will start their season as they go to Fort Smith, Arkansas, take on Arkansas Fort Smith on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the February 3rd through the 5th. So that's what's coming up for baseball. That's all we really got on Bearcat Athletics. I don't have a lot of worry with this basketball team. I think they're still really good. They're every bit as good as last year's team. I'm not even worried about that. So I think the team, they'll shape up. They'll be fine. Pitts will play. Will shoot better because he had open looks, just didn't make them versus Kearney. And it wasn't a scheme issue. It was, hey, we just didn't execute well enough, and that's the stuff you can fix easily.
And after Fort Hays, they got 3 home games after that.
Yep.
So they can get on the roll and keep it going.
And definitely, you talk about those home games. Next Saturday, January 27th, Northwest Missouri State Bearcat basketball teams hosts rival Missouri Western. Wear your cleanest white shirt to the Bearcat Arena for the annual whiteout game. Women's game starts at 1:30 with the men following at 3:30. Prizes and giveaways will be available as well as Ryan and Jenny on the broadcast.
I don't get any prizes. Too bad.
No prizes from Ryan. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, we have the AFC Championship game. We got Jaguars versus Patriots. We'll give you our thoughts on that game coming up next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And welcome back into the Weekend Sports Kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson, joined by Ryan, Jacob, and Kramer here as Trevor. We fired him, so he's gone. But
well, don't worry, we'll rehire him on Monday.
Exactly. Right now, he's working for someone else covering wrestling.
Yeah,
so
we had to fire him.
Covering some wrestling, so that's what Trevor's doing right now. But we're going to go on to the AFC Championship game. We have the Jaguars at the Patriots. The Patriots are a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is 45.5 in this one. And since Trevor's not here, we'll still give out his picks. He is taking the Jacksonville Jaguars. Joe, our producer, he's taking the Patriots. And Caleb, our associate producer, he's taking the Jaguars. We'll just go around the table. We'll go to Kramer first. Let him go first in this one. Who are you taking in this one?
I'm taking the Jaguars on this. The only reason why, because their defense is amazing, and I want to see Tom Brady lose a game in the playoffs.
Here. Dilly.
Dilly.
No, but I feel like if Patriots' run defense doesn't come alive in this, Leonard Fournette's going to run all over him. I bet there's going to be a lot of play actions like what Bortles did most of the game during the Steelers. And even when one of the play actions that did work, it was like a 50-yard pass play out on Alex Hearns.
How about you, Jacob?
I also have the Jaguars, and part of that's the Jaguars defense. But now I didn't find this. I watched this somewhere, but I saw something where the 2 quarterbacks that have gone into Foxborough and won games in the playoffs were Mark Sanchez and Joe Flacco. Now, I wish I would have been the one to have done the research and found that. But Blake Bortles kind of fits right in with in between those 2 guys,
especially
Mark Sanchez. And Joe Flacco. And with what
Sorry, Devin, that might be one guy he's better than.
With what Kramer said, the Patriots run defense, if the Jacksonville Jaguars make sure to focus on the run game, give the ball to Leonard Fournette. I don't know what we watched on Sunday with the 45-42 game between those 2 teams. That was probably one of the craziest football games I've seen in a long time. But if Jacksonville focuses on the run and the defense can put pressure on Tom Brady, because we've seen that is the one, with any quarterback, you put pressure on them, they're going to struggle a little bit. With what Jacksonville has in the secondary, if they can get pressure and then focus on the run game, I think Jacksonville takes this game.
What about you, Ryan?
I've got the Jaguars. We talked a little bit during break about, always pick Brady. In a quarterback competition, especially against Blake Bortles, but I'm not picking Blake Bortles. I'm picking Jalen Ramsey. I'm picking Miles Jack. I'm picking Malik Jackson. That entire Jacksonville defense, and I think Bortles is going to play just well enough to keep Tom Brady off the field for relatively extended periods of time, because that's another thing you have to do against a team like the Patriots is make sure Tom Brady doesn't see the field as much as he wants to. And so I think Bortles can make a few plays in the passing game, do what he's done all year, make some plays with his legs, because I do think of all the quarterbacks left in the playoffs, Blake Bortles has the best legs. And I think he can make some plays with his legs, and if he can do that, extend plays, extend drives, then you can keep Brady off the field, give your defense some rest, make them more fresh, and give them some momentum when they come out on the field, and all of a sudden you're in a ball game in Foxborough against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. There's not much bigger stage than that, and this Jaguars defense feeds on that.
All right, before I give my pick, I just want to give out this one thing that our friend Trevor made a retweet from Bookie Brooks on Twitter, and just Pro Football Focus rates each defender on the year. Well, the Patriots defense, their secondary is an 80, 81, 82, 88 across the board. So they're not bad in the secondary. You go to their front four. Flowers is an 86, Brown's an 83.5. Then after that, Butler's a 52, and Lee's a 41. Those aren't good numbers. It's out of 100, so those are well below average. Their linebackers, Flowers is a 63, then Roberts and Van Noy are both 42 and 44, respectively. So not a good front seven for New England, at all. But I just feel like with Bill Belichick, the way he schemes that defense with Matt Patricia, I just feel like the Patriots are going to be able to limit the Jaguars' rushing attack, and by doing so, we'll be able to do enough to limit Fournette enough. And I don't think Fournette's fully healthy either. And I think he's going to make Blake Bortles beat him. I don't think Blake Bortles can do that. And I think Brady will make enough plays against that stingy Jacksonville defense to look at their Pro Football Focus. And it's, let's see, they have 394s on their defense with Boye at an 89. So it's really good. Like, their worst rated D lineman is Marcel Darius. It's a 79.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that
really
Bucky, one of the things that Bucky Brooks tweeted in that tweet was that he wondered how many Patriots starters would start for the Jacksonville Jaguars just given the Pro Football Focus ratings, and it looks like one.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know which one it would be. Maybe Flowers.
No, it's not one. The only one that had a chance was the strong safety, Gilmore, and even he is slightly below.
Yep, there's not a single one. Yep.
The answer is zero.
Because their linebackers across the board at 83, 81, 90.
And an incredible defensive front.
Calais Campbell's a 94, so Mike Jackson 87.
Well, and the best position on the Patriots defense is where Jalen Ramsey plays for the Jaguars defense.
And Boye is still better than all their corners. The Jaguars defense is ridiculously good, but I know you said you were trusting the Jacksonville's defense, not Blake Bortles. Well, I just can't wrap my mind around picking Blake Bortles to win in Foxborough. I just can't do it. So I'm taking the Patriots in this one, but I will be rooting for Jacksonville. For these picks, I kind of want to be right, so I'm taking New England. But I also did the same thing last week, and then Pittsburgh allowed 45 points to Jacksonville. So what do I know when it comes to the Jaguars and what they're going to do on the football field? So I expect a low-scoring game. If it's close late, I just trust Brady more and do Bortles. Either way, whether one's leading or especially if Bortles is trailing, then definitely the Patriots. But even if Tom Brady's trailing against that defense, I think he can make enough plays to win that game. So I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. I think Jacksonville right now is getting a bad rap because they're in a smaller market and they have Blake Bortles as their quarterback.
That never helps.
Their defense is really good. Like, it's so much fun to watch those guys fly around. And you know what? If they do win, I'll be like, well, if Jacksonville's in the Super Bowl, what will the ratings be like? Well, I'll tell you this. You get Jalen Ramsey on the podium there for Super Bowl week, you're going to get some answers. You're going to get some answers. Him and Malik Jackson are going to give you something. You're going to have plenty of bulletin board material that week. It'll be a fun week. The hype for that game will be great just because of the Jaguars' defense will talk.
Well, and here's one thing that I want to mention that a lot of people are overlooking is how good that Jaguars' offensive line is. Mm-hmm. The Jaguars' offensive line for an entire 60-minute football game absolutely physically dominated the Steelers' defense. The Steelers' defense had no chance against that Jaguars' offensive line. It was absolute physical domination, and that's something that, as an offensive line, not only does it grow, your confidence as an offensive line, but that proves something. When you can take a defense like that, that's a storied defense, the Pittsburgh Steelers' defense. I know it's not as good as it's been in the past.
Definitely not as good without Shazier, but it's still a decent.
But this is a storied defensive franchise, and you can take a team like that and just absolutely annihilate them, physically, the way that the Jaguars did. You've got to feel good in a battle with this mediocre at best New England defense.
With Jacksonville, much of their key to this season has been to keep the ball out of Blake Bortles' hands. The games that Jacksonville lost, if you look at those games, they got down early and then asked Blake Bortles to go throw the football.
Not a great recipe for success for them.
But the games where they were able to win, and even in Pittsburgh, it started with the offensive line. It started with the run game, and then every once in a while they throw in a pass to keep up some balance in there. But it's with Leonard Fournette. T.J. Yeldon is a very adequate backup behind Fournette, especially if Fournette's not healthy.
And another physical runner.
And if Jacksonville can keep Brady off the field, run the football, and then just ask Blake Bortles to throw maybe 20 passes, that's all he throws during the game, I think that's a recipe for success for Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. It's also going to be kind of interesting because the Jaguars' O-line was just pretty much perfect the entire game, but the Patriots had 8 sacks against Tennessee, and they're thinking that they were perfect that entire game, so it's going to be nice to see a very good competition because they're both their heads are all gassed up, they're ready for this coming game. And I just want to see, like, it's gonna be close, but they just need to slow out the game the entire time.
And when you couple that great offensive line with a guy like Leonard Fournette, who is just a freak athlete, he's an incredible combination of size, strength, speed. He's a guy that's got it all in the backfield, and he's a physical specimen. This guy is one of the best athletes you can find in the world of football. When you combine that with a great offensive line, it's tough to stop. That proved to be the case against Pittsburgh twice. That proved to be the case against just about every other team that Jacksonville's seen this year.
He kind of reminds me of Maurice Jones-Drew a little bit, but except for the height.
Yeah, except he's like 3 times bigger.
Yeah, definitely. That's his running style, though. Is definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to do that. You can drive. I'm just going to run through your soul, and that's going to be about it.
He,
so.
Honestly, and this is a tough comparison to make because they're, at the time we had never seen anything like Bo, but he is very similar to Bo Jackson. He's got the size, he's got the strength, he's got the speed.
He can move, that big boy,
and he has lateral movement that a lot of people don't. He doesn't use it as much, but he does have upper level lateral movement that a lot of bigger running backs don't have.
Yeah, and one thing I want to switch to here is, okay, so the big thing of this week, Tom Brady hit his hand on a defender's helmet during practice this week, and it's a big deal in Foxborough if he's going to play or not. They asked him, are you going to play? He's like, we'll see. You're going to play, Tom. Don't even do this. We'll see.
This is the AFC Championship
He
game.
wore red gloves on both hands in the press conference just to troll everybody. You know what? That takes me out. I almost switched my vote to Jacksonville just because of that, but I know he's just doing this to mess with everybody. He's going to win this game. And it's just like, I'm always played with pain. I'm like, you're a quarterback. I don't want to hear it. Like,
here's
pretty boy.
here's my deal is, no, obviously Brady's going to play. They're not, the New England Patriots are not going to go into this game without Tom Brady if they don't have to. And so what the difference to me is though that it is his right hand, it's his throwing hand, and
wearing a glove and cold can be
hard for quarterbacks. Well, that and a lot of people don't realize how much of an effect it has if a right hand is at 95% instead of 100%.
And so if it's not so important in his game.
If it's not 100%, absolutely just as good as it always has been, then Tom Brady's going to see a downtick in his throwing ability. He's going to be unable to spin the ball as fast. He's going to be unable to throw the ball as accurately as he wants to, because you have to have a really strong grip on that football to throw the way that an NFL quarterback does. And if you don't have 100% in your right hand, you're not going to be able to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see if it has an effect on Tom Brady, because if it's not 100%, then it will.
And this is the quote that you get from Tom Brady. I think the team has worked hard to get to this point. It'll be a great game. Playing against a really good team that is good in all phases, we're going to play really well. Thank you very much for a lot of words for nothing.
Coach talk.
Coach talks to the extreme there in New England. You go to Jacksonville's quote. It's like, yeah, we're going to beat their beep. It's like, wow, okay, let's go, Jalen.
There is some personality on that Jacksonville defense.
You will run through a wall for that Jacksonville defense. I mean, there's some guys, Jalen Ramsey in particular, who definitely like to talk, but you know what they're good at, and they back it up.
Well, I've always been a proponent of talking, because it's a way to. It's not only is it a mental strategy, you want to get inside the head of your opponent, but at the same time, you want to be a teammate that says, I trust my teammates, I trust this team, I'm confident we're going to go out and we're going to do the things we need to do to win this football game, and you know what? If we do, we're going to tell you we did it.
And yeah, they're saying Brady's they're not fooled by this. Brady's going to play. There's no way he doesn't play this game.
Right.
They're not buying that stuff out of New England and all this stuff they're talking about. They're like, we know that they think Bortles is bad. We know this. They're just not saying it. We're not dumb. We weren't born in a barn. We know.
This whole thing is New England Patriots and Bill Belichick mind games at their finest. Yes. Nothing's wrong with Tom Brady. I think, maybe he did hit his hand on a helmet.
Broken nail.
Broken nail. And they saw a way to maybe put a little bit of something in the Jacksonville Jaguars' heads that maybe we have to get ready for a less than 100% Tom Brady or
Brian Hoyer.
If Brian Hoyer plays against this Jaguars defense, I completely
refuse everything. Blowout.
Because the Chiefs got 5 picks off Brian Hoyer.
Well, if Jacksonville is even spending 15 minutes going, well, we need to just go over just in case what we got to deal with if Hoyer's on the field. That's 15 minutes they're not focused on working with Tom Brady.
And that immediately gives Brady an advantage.
And I think that's exactly what the New England Patriots are trying to do. They're just trying to play their classic mind games.
And like Devin mentioned, Jacksonville's done a fantastic job of realizing that, come on now, Brady's going to play.
We're not fools.
And,
Right.
And if his hand is actually hurt, you're going to see a lot of shovel passes to Deion Lewis. And, that's pretty much his thing anyways. And that's going to happen the entire game. I'm going to be pretty
And
sure.
how accurate do you really need to be to throw to 6'7" Gronk? Like, honestly,
That's true.
just throw it up to him.
Okay,
I know,
exactly.
Jalen Ramsey might be on it, but he still has 6 inches on Jalen. I mean, just throw it up high and let him get a rebound. I mean, at the same point, it's like, yeah,
But they'll
accuracy is important.
But they'll probably most likely double Gronk the entire game, which I honestly, if they don't, that'd be surprising.
Honestly, yeah, I expect this Jaguars defense to make somebody else beat him, whether it's Amendola or whoever.
And it has been confirmed that the fan that hit Fournette rear-ended was a Steelers fan.
Oh.
Come on, Caleb.
It was confirmed that it was Caleb. Caleb hit Leonard Fournette.
We're kidding, Caleb. Caleb did not hit Leonard Fournette, so don't come after him. But it was kind of rumored that after Fournette got in the car crash, like the week before the Patriots game, it's like, the Patriots are covert, which it still might be. Maybe a Steelers fan.
I'm telling you, something's going on. I'm convinced. I'm convinced Bill Belichick is a wizard.
He's a Sith Lord.
He's a Sith. Yes, he's a Sith Lord. Trust
He
me on
is
this.
something. He is something because you talk about, the Leonard Fournette getting into a car accident. I know nothing happened. He just got rear-ended. He's fine.
The mind games, though.
But and then the week before with the fake missile threat in Hawaii, where Marcus Mariota is from.
Everything happens.
All right. Something's going on with Bill
It's a
Belichick.
conspiracy.
Somebody at the NFL offices needs to take a look into this
Also, one thing to mention here
for
is
the 500th time.
The senior advisor for the Jaguars is Tom Coughlin, who beat Tom Brady twice in Super Bowl. So maybe he'll have a little recipe like, hey, just hit him a lot early and often.
Yeah,
So,
well, if there's anything this Jacksonville defense wants to do, it's hit Tom Brady.
So let's see if the Patriots try to establish that running game early. Also, thank you to Caleb saying we are on Facebook Live. If you're viewing us on Facebook Live, hello. And we're going to take a quick break actually now, though. And we're going to come back and talk about the Eagles-Vikings game next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And we are back here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson, joined by Ryan, Jacob, and Kramer here on the show. As we're going to talk about the NFC Championship game now, as it's going to be the Vikings at the Eagles. Should be a fun one out in Philadelphia, a city that even hates Santa Claus. In this one, so
Long time ago, Devin.
it's still there. The Vikings are a 3-point road favorite in this one. The over/under is 38.5 points, so they're expecting a defensive slugfest, which I think is the expectation here as well. We'll just go around the room. Trevor, he's picking Minnesota, as is Joe and Caleb. We're going to go to Ryan first this time. Who are you taking this one?
I've got to go with the Vikings. I think if Carson Wentz were playing for the Eagles, they'd be the clear favorite in this football game. I don't think Nick Foles has the ability that Wentz does, obviously. And this isn't with the Falcons, it was a situation where Foles just had to not screw up. This is not that situation. This is a situation where Foles is going to have to play above what we've seen from him lately. And so he's going to have to go above and beyond what we've seen him do recently to win this football game. And I think the Vikings defense is just too good. And I know it's in Philly. Lincoln Financial Field is not an easy place to play for anybody, but
Their fans are irrational.
but you look at this Vikings team, and this Vikings team wants nothing more than to be in Minneapolis for a Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
I've got the Vikings as well, and this kind of comes down to after what happened on Sunday, it's kind of one of those situations where the Vikings, they have to go win this Super Bowl now. You have the Super Bowl in your own, your own place, and then with the if they put a name on what happened on Sunday, they called
the
it
Minneapolis
something.
Miracle. That's what the Vikings play-by-play guy said.
Yeah. Well,
I think that should stick.
Yeah, that should stick, and that's what it was. And after that, the Vikings, with a game like that, you either show up next week and you throw up a dud, or you come ready to play knowing that you got granted a second opportunity to make the Super Bowl this year, and I think the Vikings will take that. And their defense is better, their offense is better than the Eagles right now. I just think they're just a little bit better than the Eagles in every way right now.
I'm going to join you on this Viking train. I'm going Minnesota as well. I just don't see the Eagles' defense doing that great because, even their game against Atlanta, it was 15-10. People could say it was a good defensive game, but it was a terrible defensive game. It's the truth. But, the Eagles' offense is also down as well because, without Carson Wentz, they're a different ball team.
Yeah.
And Case Keenum right now is showing that he can do a lot in Minnesota with this 1 year he has on with them.
Paul Allen, by the way, is the name of the Vikings play-by-play announcer. Not to be confused with the owner of the Seahawks, Paul Allen.
Yeah, but if Case Keenum shows
A
up,
little less money there.
if McKinnon plays the way he's been playing, Vikings have this one.
I know the last game I picked the only one that was opposite. This game I'm going with the crowd. Groupthink here. We're going with Minnesota Vikings. I know we're all friends with Luke Peterson here, and he's a big Vikings fan, so I was glad to see the Vikings won. I picked them last week over the Saints, and that last play to Diggs was just spectacular and both heartbreaking in the same way, depending on which side of the ball you're on. I was really just kind of a non-biased, kind of like, okay, I'm just watching a good game here and back and forth, and just seeing that I was thinking, there's no way this is actually happening. Like, there's no way he actually missed that tackle and digs down the sideline for a touchdown. That was outstanding for the Vikings. Their defense, there's just no holes there. They're just solid in every single level. They're not overly strong in one particular area, but they're just so good across the board. It's hard to find a weakness with them. And I think that collective above average to really good with their defense can propel them to stop the Eagles. I know the Eagles had a lot of success with that run-pass option with Foles in that last game versus the Falcons, but the Falcons' defense and the Viking defense is two different animals.
Yeah.
And the Vikings' defense, I think they're going to be able to shut down that Eagles running game a little bit here. And I know the Saints ran the ball well versus the Vikings, but it's also because they had Drew Brees to keep them honest in the passing game. I don't think Nick Foles can do that. And I like what Case Keenum is bringing to the table right now. He's got good weapons around him, too, which really helps elevate his play. Because Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are really good receivers. They're really fun to watch. So I think the Vikings just have too much firepower on offense. And if they can just contain that defensive line for the Eagles, which is better said than done, I think they have a really good chance to win this game on the road. I know it's in the elements, but you know what, they're used to playing in the NFC North. They have to go to Chicago, to Green Bay. They're used to playing in the elements. It's not like they're an NFC South team that's used to playing in domes everywhere they go. So I like what the Vikings are going to do here. I'm going to take the Vikings in this one, probably by a touchdown.
I look at the one thing that I will give for the Philadelphia Eagles is the one place where they have a distinct advantage in this game is the running game. Between Ajayi and Blunt, those two behind a solid offensive line in Philadelphia, the running game is where the Eagles have a distinct advantage in this game, and if they can utilize that, then they'll have a chance. But I think to go on Devin's point, the Vikings defense is just, I think, going to be too much for this Eagles run game. I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done the way they want to, and that'll end up being the downfall of the Philadelphia Eagles.
And these two teams are, before I cut you off, Jacob, sorry, are 1 and 2 in run defense. Philly's 1, Minnesota 2. So they might be a situation where, hey, the quarterback has to beat you. Which one do I trust? I trust Keenum over Foles in this one. So that's just where I'm going. Both
Did you ever think we'd be saying that? That's unbelievable.
Definitely when Jeff Fisher was their head coach.
One thing that I have to actually disagree with you is that I don't think there's that much of an advantage with the Philadelphia run offense. Because with Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray with the Vikings, regular season-wise, Philly was only the number 3 overall rush offense. Minnesota was only, at 7. So they're not really that far apart. And I think, you have different style runners, and maybe that's where the advantage goes for Philadelphia. They're, we know McKinnon's a little bit of a smaller, shifty player, and the two guys that
then you have
Philly
Latavius
has.
Murray for Minnesota, and I'm sure Kramer's a Raiders fan. He was a good running back in Oakland.
Right.
I don't know why they
Here's one
really
thing
got rid of him, but he's a really good running back.
He's solid. And then you even seen it when he went to New York, because he was actually really good for New York for a season or two.
He's just a solid running back who can get yards, and I know we talk about this all the time, but these defenses, even when you include Jacksonville, the 3 top pass defense when it comes to yards per attempt this year, number 1, Minnesota, number 2, Jacksonville, number 3, Philadelphia. So these defense are the 3 best defenses in the NFL, in my opinion. So this game is just going to be all defense, and it should be fun to watch.
Here's one thing I will point out, though, about the Philadelphia Eagles rush offense is that 7 of the games that they played this season were without Jay Ajayi. Because he was traded from the Miami Dolphins mid-season. And so I think that's a little bit skewed because they didn't have Ajayi at the time. Ajayi showed up, 70 carries for 408 yards. He's averaging 5.8 yards per carry. That's something that I think lifted that Philadelphia run game.
They fleeced the Dolphins on that trade.
To places, yeah, they really did. That lifted the Philadelphia run game to places that it hadn't been prior with just LeGarrette Blount in the backfield. But I will admit that McKinnon and Murray are both very good running backs. I just don't think that they stack up to Blount and Ajayi on the other side.
And I'm not saying that they're equal. It's just I think they're a little bit closer. There's not as much an advantage with Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia, they were averaging 4.5 yards a carry. Minnesota only had 3.9. So although they were close in yardage throughout the year. The efficiency was better with Philadelphia, and that's where that advantage is. But I think Minnesota is a little bit closer than what they might be.
And I like the Minnesota, like I talked about earlier, each step of the defense. Those corners, Waynes and Rhodes for Minnesota, are lockdown corners, especially Rhodes. Rhodes closed in Minnesota. I mean, he's really good. Of course, you have Harrison Smith behind him. I know Sendeo right now is questionable for the game on Sunday, so that could be a hurt to their strongest safety. If you look at their linebackers can fly with Kendricks and Barr. Those two guys can fly around the football field. I like this Minnesota team so much. If Carson Wentz was healthy, I'd probably be singing a different tune here. I'd probably go with Philly, especially at home, but I do like Minnesota in this game to win it. I probably have 7 points, so I'd probably take Minnesota in the points even on the road there. But this should be a fun game. It's the late game there on Fox, 5:40 kickoff there on Sunday. You have any more to say about this game, guys?
Even if both their run games are not doing proper, of course we're going to pick Case Keenum over Foles, but Rhodes is going to be on Alshon Jeffrey the entire game, and if Alshon Jeffrey actually gets past Rhodes most of the time, I mean, Eagles could come up and win this.
Definitely.
It's just that it's that matchup we just need to watch about. But then even with the SM corner, I mean, the safety Harrison Smith, I mean, he can just come up and help out. But I mean, they're gonna have to do something with Alshon Jeffrey.
And I think with the outside of the run game for Philadelphia and maybe the front four, I can't find another aspect of this football game where Philadelphia has a distinct advantage. I think the advantage lies with Minnesota just about everywhere else. In the pass game with Keenum and in the receiving core with Diggs and Thielen.
Thielen plays this week.
Right. He's been he hasn't practiced yet, has he?
No.
But you look at the defensive backfield. Easily an advantage for the Vikings. I think the linebacking core an advantage for the Vikings, although closer than the defensive backfield. But everywhere else for this Minnesota Vikings team is an advantage.
No, I completely agree with you on that.
And one thing I want to say here, it's hard to win in the playoffs, especially when you're not at full strength. You look at the Eagles; 3 of their biggest stars are out right now. You have Wentz, the left tackle is Peters, and their middle linebacker Hicks. You lose that much star power; it's really hard for those backups to come in and fill those roles. So I think it's a battle of nutrition in the NFL, and I think the Vikings, even with Thielen and Sendeo kind of questionable, they still could play, so I'm going to take the Vikings to win this game. So I think we have time for a break here. We're going to take we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we got MLB talk. I know that's what Kramer's ready to talk about, and of course Ryan over there. A little bit of the hot stove, and also the Hall of Fame voting is going to be coming in here soon. Kind of your guys' opinions on who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. We'll have plenty of time for that discussion. So we're going to take a break and be back next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. Before I do, next Saturday, January 27th, the Northwest Missouri State Bearcat basketball teams host rival Missouri Western. Wear your cleanest white shirt to Bearcat Arena for the annual Whiteout game. The women's game starts at 1:30 with the men following at 3:30. Prizes and giveaways will be available. Take a quick break and talk about the MLB next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And welcome back into the Weekend Sports Kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson, joined by Ryan, Jacob, and Kramer. In this one, we've got some MLB talk. First, we're going to go to the Hall of Fame, because I feel like it's a more interesting topic than the hot stove right now, which is pretty cold. But we're going to go to it.
It has been for a while. I thought maybe it'd pick up, but it didn't.
Yeah, it hasn't. I mean, we're only like 4 weeks away from spring training, so no big deal there. So I'm going to go to Kramer and Ryan. You guys are more of our baseball guys here. Hall of Fame ballot, sorry.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're good here. I don't have a real strong opinion on who should be in the Hall of Fame this year, but I have a few opinions, but I'll give it to you first, Ryan. Who do you think should be in the Hall of Fame?
Let me give you a rundown of some of the names on the ballot. So we've got, obviously, the returning guys. You see Trevor Hoffman, who got 74% of the vote last year. Vladimir Guerrero on there as well. You look at Edgar Martinez, you look at Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, they're both still on the ballot, and Mike Mussina. Those are the guys that got over 50% last year. Newcomers to the ballot that actually have a chance. There's some guys on there that really don't, but the newcomers to the ballot that actually have a chance, you look at Chipper Jones, Jim Thome, Omar Vizquel, Andrew Jones, Scott Rowland, Johnny Damon, Johan Santana, and Jamie Moyer. Moyer only has a chance because he played for 435 years in the MLB.
It's accurate.
So here are my picks for the people that make it into the Hall of Fame.
Actually 25.
Obviously, number one is Chipper Jones. Chipper Jones is an easy first ballot Hall of Famer. He is a legend in Atlanta. It is in Atlanta, or not necessarily in Atlanta, but with the Braves franchise, it is Hank Aaron, it is Chipper Jones.
Yep.
Those are the two. And so Chipper Jones is an easy first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Jim Thome gets in on his first ballot. You give me Trevor Hoffman, who when you retire with a career MLB record,
probably should get in.
You ought to get in. He retired as a career leader in saves. I think Trevor Hoffman ought to get in. Vladimir Guerrero, I think, should get in. And then my fifth is Omar Vizquel. I think when you have 11 Gold Gloves at a position like shortstop, it's such a competitive defensive position in the MLB. Omar Vizquel has to get in as well. So that's my 5.
I'm pretty much the exact same thing that I have, except that I'm going to go on order. I'm going to say Chipper Jones, of course, Trevor Hoffman, Vladimir Guerrero, Omar Vizquel, and I want to say either Jim Tomei or, I know this is going to sound weird, and Larry Walker. Either one of them. Because I enjoyed watching Larry Walker's, of course I didn't watch him because I wasn't alive during the time he played most of his games, but he had outstanding years with Colorado, and even when he even retired, he was retired as a Cardinal, and he even had great numbers in St. Louis. But
I think
go ahead.
The big difference in that situation, though, is Larry Walker had what, 5? How many home runs did Larry Walker hit?
383.
Okay, so it wasn't even 500.
No,
Jim Tomey's got over. Jim Tomey's got over 600. So I think Tomey wins that debate there, but
just because of the batting titles that Walker has won.
Yeah,
because he had a lifetime batting average of 313.
And the other problem for Larry Walker is this is his 8th year on the ballot.
Yeah,
and he hasn't done it yet.
22% last year.
Yeah.
Other guys who were close last year that couldn't quite get it, of course, Hoffman at 74%. He's pretty much a shoe-in to get it this year. Vladimir Guerrero was at 72% last year. Next 3 hires, Edgar Martinez at 58%, Roger Clemens at 54%, and then Barry Bonds at 53.8%. The steroid users are the ones that are always interested to talk about these because it's like, should they get in, should they not? It's kind of a moral issue at the same time as hey, those 2 guys were the best at their positions for a long time. Barry Bonds, of course, the home run leader all time.
And I think
so. It's kind of hard to judge those guys. They're both on their 6th year of the ballot. Like, what do you do with them? What do you do with Edgar Martinez, who's a DH?
I think the difference between with Bonds and Clemens is that if you take away the steroid effect, both of those guys are probably still Hall of Famers.
Yes.
Like, you take away from Sosa and McGuire, it's questionable.
It might be a little different. Yeah. McGuire had great years in Oakland, but I don't think he would have kept up the same clip that he was on the way that I think.
A Hall of Fame
yeah,
career.
the way that I think Bonds and Clemens did. And the other guy that you talk about is Edgar Martinez, who, in my opinion, the second greatest DH of all time behind David Ortiz. I think Ortiz has hurt Edgar Martinez a little bit because you look at, if this were 7 years ago, then you would look at Edgar Martinez and go, of course this guy's a Hall of Famer. He's the greatest DH of all time.
309 home runs, 1,200 RBIs.
And now that spot's been taken by David Ortiz, and you look at, you go, do you put the second greatest DH of all time in the in the Hall of Fame? It's an interesting conversation to have. I think Martinez is deserving of a Hall of Fame spot, no doubt. He kind of revolutionized the position of DH in baseball. The DH position wasn't as glorified as it is
Ortiz
now.
Without Martinez.
Right,
right. And to be honest with Barry Bonds, if he didn't take steroids, maybe he doesn't have all 762 of those home runs.
Right. He probably
may
still has maybe,
I would say,
or 550, somewhere in that range.
He was a workhorse when he first came into the
and
MLB.
He's an incredible athlete. He's a great
Exactly.
baseball player even without the steroids. Like when he was in Pittsburgh, he was a great baseball player.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to be real. So no Matsui this year? He's not getting in?
No. Let's take a look at some of the other names that are on this
Carlos
list.
Lee.
Carlos Zambrano, Chris Carpenter, Levon Hernandez, Orlando Hudson, Kevin Millwood,
Yeah,
Kerry
Millwood.
Wood, Carlos Lee, Ben Sheets is one of my favorites,
see
former
Orlando-
Milwaukee Brewer.
You see the O-Dog Orlando Hudson on there?
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Damon.
Jack Wilson, Adam Kennedy, Jeff Suppan. We were talking during the break, a host of former St. Louis Cardinals on this
Brad
list
Lidge.
with Carpenter and
Rowland.
Suppan. Scott Rowland is on the list, who also he's got a chance.
Yeah, he
the
honestly
problem
does.
is that there's been so many great third basemen.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Hard.
kind of overshadowed by a lot
Chipper.
of them. Yeah, well, and when you have one
Chipper
like
in
Chipper
there.
Jones going into the class with you, but a World Series champion, a multiple-time Gold Glove winner, a great hitter. He's got the tools to be there, but like say, there are so many great third basemen that it kind of gets bogged down a little bit. Jason Isringhausen, another former Cardinal on the list, who's not going to make it, but hey, he's on the list.
And then another guy you want to mention, if you want to, last year's ballot, who's also tied to steroids, Manny Ramirez got 24% of the votes last year. Did finish his career with 555 home runs, 1,800 RBIs, quarterback average of 312. But Manny Ramirez is another questionable decision there.
Right, and he's loosely linked to steroids, not in the same way that Clemens and Bonds were, because they were the poster children of
With
the
McGuire
steroid
and
era.
Sosa,
Yeah, and so Ramirez isn't linked as tightly to it as them, so I'm surprised to see Ramirez with as little percentage as he had.
That's the same because Manny Ramirez, like, he got busted when he was like late into his
like
career.
38, 39. Like he was old, yeah.
Yeah, and with the
AAA
Dodgers,
ball, yeah. He was-
AAA, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Manny Ramirez was good back when.
He's a fantastic baseball
He's
player.
a great outfielder.
But he's in another situation where there's so many great outfielders, including some in this class, that, you know.
And once you get linked with steroids, you're not.
Just staying on your
Sorry.
resume,
Yeah.
It's not good.
And like Vladimir Guerrero, he should be in 449 home runs,
Oh, man.
almost 1,500 RBIs. I mean, he was the best bad ball hitter of all time. I remember watching an All-Star game. They tried to pitch around him, and he still hit a home run.
Yeah.
Like, he was in the other batter's box. He just reached out there and just clanked it. It's like,
And such
homer.
it was an amazing thing to watch Vladimir Guerrero.
Yes.
You know, he was the bare bones, no batting gloves, just give me the bat and let me hit a baseball. And he had a weird swing.
But
it
it
was
worked.
very unconventional. You know, it almost reminds you of some of the guys like, well, Bryce Harper's got a similar swing to
True.
that uppercut, almost golf-looking swing
The
that,
late
that
Oscar
Vladimir
Taveras.
Guerrero, Vladimir Guerrero had. That, you know, two hands on the bat, just take a swing and follow through. Prince Fielder was another guy that had a similar swing.
He also swung like a 35-inch bat.
Yeah, well, and he swung the thing at 500 miles an hour.
Exactly.
This guy was so
he swung
strong.
a light pole. It's okay.
It's honestly funny watching him, like, because you know how they do like the celebrity softball games
Yeah.
after the home run derbies. It's actually fun watching because he was on there like the
Right.
past 3 years.
Yeah, and he's just hitting dingers.
blinkers. Yeah,
It's incredible because this guy's swinging a tree trunk.
Move the fences back. So, yeah.
Because not
he's-
only did he swing a 35-inch bat, it was a huge bat. Like,
Yeah.
it was weighted ridiculously. He was swinging a tree.
no, he was.
It happens. All right. He was just a strong human being. I mean, he was just so fun to watch. They listed him at 6'3", 235. I mean, he was just a guy who just all power.
He's an athlete.
Yeah,
you don't talk about baseball players as much in the
16
realm
years
of
in the league.
Yeah, you don't talk about that as much in the realm of being athletes.
Mm-hmm.
But Vladimir Guerrero was an athlete.
And I remember
You
him
know.
most for his time in LA for the Angels. That's that 04 to 09 seasons was
Yeah.
whenever I remembered him the most in my kind of years watching baseball. And he was hitting between 25 and 40 home runs every year. I mean, he was just jacking them out. I mean, he's just a fun guy to watch
Then
play.
you even run back, you run back to the Expos days and things like
40
that.
steals one year. I mean,
before they
what?
became the Nationals.
I mean, one year he had 37 doubles, 39 home runs, and 40 stolen bases. Like, that doesn't happen. Hitting 336.
And
That's
honestly,
ridiculous.
So what's interesting to think about is you think about Hall of Famers, you think about historical figures in the game of baseball.
Can you tell the sport without this guy? Can you tell the game of the sport? Like,
Right, and
history of the
so
sport?
you look at, but what's interesting is that you look at this class, and a lot of people are going to look at it and go, boy, this really is a pretty thin class, because you see a lot of guys that you don't think of as historical figures in the game of baseball because it hasn't been that long since they retired.
Exactly.
We watched these guys. We saw these guys play baseball.
the people we
You
watched growing
so
up.
you don't look at them and see the same kind of effect that you see a Mickey Mantle or you see a Joe DiMaggio, all the Yankees back in the day, all of the, Bob Gibson, those sorts
Even
of
King
figures.
Griffin Jr., yeah.
Yeah, those sorts of figures. You don't see that as much in these guys, even though every single one of them has the pedigree that a lot of those guys had. I mean,
Exactly.
Chipper Jones has an unbelievable pedigree as a baseball player. That slash line is incredible. 303, 401, 529. 468 home runs, 8-time All-Star, 1999 MVP, won a World Series in 95, played all 19 seasons in Atlanta. That's an incredible career, absolutely worthy of a Hall of Fame, and I think you can say that about a lot of guys on this
He's the
list.
definition of a franchise player.
Absolutely.
You look like Chipper Jones.
Like I said earlier, in the Braves franchise, it's Hank Aaron, it's Chipper Jones.
Yep.
Those are the two. Those are your guys that get
With the
statues.
three pitchers.
Yeah.
With the three pitchers
Yeah.
that were in the 90s. That
And,
were
and to be honest, there
guys.
should be more World Series rings on him.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
be completely honest on
Yeah.
this.
But it's
'cause-
Atlanta sports, so
Yeah,
they
it's
don't
Atlanta
they don't
sports.
get it. So yeah, that was our Hall of Fame discussion there. I think there's a lot of good candidates this year, so it should be fun to see. I know there's one guy on Twitter who gets like guys to send him their ballots, and he has like 50% of them up right now. So definitely some opportunities to watch there. I can't remember who it is on Twitter, but he's already collected like half the ballots. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see that kind of comes out early in this new age of, hey, we want the information now. So that's always kind of nice to see. When are they going to announce that officially? Is it next Tuesday? When did they
I don't
officially announce it? I
remember.
can't remember when they're announcing it. I'm going to look up for sure here, but it should be interesting to see when they actually do announce it. Results January 24th. So yeah, next week.
Yep.
So it'll be Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we will know the Hall of Famers for this class. They'll be inducted July 29th at 1:30 p.m. in Cooperstown. So it's a Sunday.
Yeah, and I just want to, real quick, some of the guys that they have already named the, if I can find them.
What? Well, dead here.
There were a couple of guys that a different committee gets a chance to name a couple of guys to the MLB Hall or to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and they named a couple of Detroit Tigers, and Jack Morris was on that list, and a couple other guys, but that have already been named to the Hall of Fame from the guys that maybe fell off the ballot, but another group of writers gets a chance to elect them as well. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
All right, so that's nice there. We're going to go to the is there anything happening in the MLB hot stove? Is there anything happening at all? I noticed Howie Kendrick got a 2-year, $7 million deal with the Nats, but that's all I really got here.
Not much new. I know, a couple things that happened since the last time we talked about it were the Cole and McCutchen deals over the course of the week.
Pirates getting their roster
the Pirates
again.
Are, well, yeah, and I'm not surprised. The Pirates weren't where they wanted to be last year. They really didn't feel like they had the ability to get back to where they wanted to be this year, and so they're saving some money. They're starting over.
If they would have done a lot better last year, I don't think they would have made these deals.
No, and I absolutely
that's why
agree.
because they were going to trade McCutchen last offseason. They ended up keeping him, and even through spring training, they kept him. And if they would have just, finished probably second in the division, maybe they would still keep these guys. But
I feel they're too far away.
Yeah, exactly.
And also other news: the Mets signed Adrian Gonzalez to a 1-year, $21.5 million deal. Never mind. He was released from Atlanta, guaranteed $21.5. You find a 1-year league minimum, $500,000. That's a big difference. But she's still getting paid $22.5 million even from Atlanta not to play for there, and just a league minimum deal for the Mets. So decent get for the Mets. I know he's getting up there in age, but might help them a little bit in their lineup that lacked some pop last year.
There's a 5-year, $100 million offer for J.D. Martinez by the Red Sox right now.
And he wants $200 million.
Yeah, and he wants $200 million.
He's an idiot.
Yeah.
It's not happening. Not this year. Not even close. Not even for J.D. Martinez. That's like Harper money. You're not getting that. Just go away.
I honestly, he's one of the best hitters in baseball, though, to be completely honest with this.
I just don't see giving him even like Hosmer is getting like a $147 million offer over 7 years, and you want 5 years, $200. No.
That's true. And also, age plays a factor on this too.
Yeah, it does.
Because he's 31.
Yep.
And there's not really much. He's on his prime right now, of course.
And people aren't giving out those big contracts like they were a couple years ago.
Exactly.
They might next year because you got Machado and Harper coming out and stuff like that. So they might next year. They're saving their money for next summer. So
two going to be Yankees probably.
So I want to go back and
yes,
clarify what I was talking about earlier with the Hall of Fame and
I love it.
It's the modern baseball era ballot.
Okay.
And so it's a group of 16 voters that meet during the winter meetings and elect the first representatives to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And this year, Jack Morris, former Tigers pitcher, and former Tigers shortstop Alan Trammell were both elected by that committee into the Hall of Fame. Guys that had passed their time on the ballot, the official ballot, and got a chance to be elected by the Modern Era Committee, and both representatives of the Detroit Tigers, and I think both very deserving individuals to get into the Hall of Fame. So those were the first two announced as members of the Hall of Fame class, and I believe it's June that everybody else will be, or July 29th, 2018, will be inducted into the Hall of Fame as well.
So I don't see much happening in MLB right now. It's all pretty quiet. Scott Boras still has like 100 players still. They're not signed because he refuses to accept anything less than what he thinks they're worth, and they're not getting that right now.
The only thing that I've noticed is Ellsbury for Ian Desmond might be a possibility for the Rockies and Yankees, but I don't know how much upside that is for both teams.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier too, in that those two guys are on the downswing of their careers. At this point, Desmond may be a little bit better upside than Ellsbury has. Ellsbury's getting up there in years. He's seen a decline in production. But certainly pieces that can take a good team up a notch. That I think is kind of the moves that we're looking at this point. The bigger moves are going to end up happening with teams that aren't that great, that are trying to step into the upper echelon, but with the teams that are on the uptick, the teams that are near the top of their respective leagues, we're going to see the guys that aren't huge players and are just there to make as much of an impact as they can.
Yeah.
All right, so what I told you before break is I wanted to get to this real quick. There's a guy I follow on Twitter. Is Ted Schwartzler? I don't remember. He's more of a Twins fan to start out with, but he started using stats to back up some of his argument. I wanted to see what my other two Cardinal fans here have to think about this, because he was making the argument that Joe Mauer is all-time better than Yadier Molina. I personally don't believe that. He was using F-WAR to kind of make his argument there. He's even kind of slighted Molina a little bit, Mike, because he put the WAR for Molina's career right now is 35.4,
right,
and the WAR for Jason Kindle is 39.5, which in my opinion makes WAR an irrelevant stat. 'Cause you tell me that Jason Kindle is a better catcher than Yadier Molina, you're crazy. Yeah. And he was just trying to say that he just thinks that Mauer's 10 years as a catcher is better than Yadi's 14 years as a catcher because of all these other stats and stuff like this. I get that Mauer was a better offensive player than Molina ever has been, but Molina's defense, I know it's hard to quantify that, but it's just so vital
Especially
for that pitching staff. For St. Louis has been so good for so many years because of Yadi, in my opinion. So I just thought it was interesting. That back and forth, I didn't really have a good response for him because I didn't really have time to go to a big argument over all that stuff. So I just kind of wanted to, versus a topic on this show, what you guys think of the Molina versus Mauer argument?
Here's what you look at in this situation. There comes a time where things have to step past the sabermetrics. They have to step past, all of these numbers that people throw out, and you've got to look at the eye test. And when you look at the eye test, there is one guy in Major League Baseball right now that every base stealer in the league is afraid of, and it's Yadier Molina.
Even
there
with
is
his age.
one guy that only, I've pointed this out in the past when people make the argument for Yadi versus Salvador Perez. Only the fastest guys in the MLB run on Yadier Molina, and Molina still has a better caught stealing percentage than Salvador Perez does. It's the same concept with Joe Mauer. Mauer, yes, was better offensively. I think there's no doubt about that. But defensively, and Devin mentioned in the way he handles the pitching staff, he is the sole reason that Carlos Martinez is what he is right now. Because otherwise, Carlos Martinez would have become a basket case and started throwing wild pitches, game after game after game. He's kept the young guys calm. He's kept the older guys, in charge of their emotions. He's kept the older guys
longer.
Yeah, he's kept the older guys going. Adam Wainwright would be retired by now if it weren't for Yadier Molina.
And that's probably one of the main reasons why Chris Carpenter was still stayed in the league for so long that he did.
Yeah, and the one thing that the one statement he made here is Yadier Molina is a great defensive catcher, and he's been great for the game, but his overall greatness is vastly overstated. That was his premise to start out the game, start out this whole argument. He said Mauer has 3 Golden Gloves, and no Yadi, he has 8 right now, so
and should have 9.
Yadier Molina is an outstanding defensive catcher, and I know, he keeps saying, yes, all these things right now, all of people were rebutting him were all, eye test stuff, but you know what? Baseball can be more than just sabermetrics, as you said there.
Yeah,
the eye test is huge because it's just so important with all that stuff going on there. I get Mauer was a better offensive player, but Yadi with his defense. Plus, it wasn't like he was a 200 hitter as a 200 hitter.
Right.
He was a good hitter.
He's a good hitter.
That's a contact hitter.
Really,
that's what it is.
His hitting's evolving right now.
Absolutely. More so recently, even that Yadier Molina has taken a step into where he's a reliable guy in the middle of a lineup,
and he's still catching. I know Mauer. He's first base DH now because of his concussions. But still, if he was probably still in this without the concussion stuff, you still cannot compare these two.
No, and there's something to be said for durability as a catcher. 14 seasons in the league as a catcher for Yadier Molina, and how many of those seasons has he caught over 150 games? Almost all of them. It's unbelievable.
He trains for 182 a year.
Yeah.
That's what he said last year.
It's incredible. And, it's something that you don't see hardly ever. Catchers do not start 150 games a year on average. It just doesn't happen.
You've even seen with with Salvador Perez, he's breaking down just a little bit as the last couple of years. There's always those little nagging injuries.
Yeah.
Kind of add up when you're behind the plate getting battered by balls. That's what happens. But I think Yadi is such a good defensive catcher. He can avoid some of those big hits because he knows exactly where it's going. He's just that good and everything like that. And I get that Mauer's come to a very good first baseman now, a pretty elite defensively at that position, age 30 plus, what he says here.
Yeah.
And he has played in a lot since 2015 at first base. It's a big difference to play 134 games at first base compared to catcher. There's a lot more drooling on your body. There's a reason why you play 4 games and then you have Tony Cruz come in to catch a game. It's not because Cruz is better. It's because hey, you just need Molina to be healthier come September.
Yeah.
Just the way it is.
When you look at a guy like Yadier Molina, and this guy, is and has been over the last 14 years. And I'm gonna make a hot decision here.
Hot take. Let's go.
One of the two greatest defensive catchers in the history of Major League Baseball. He and Pudge Rodriguez are the two, and I think you put them tied at first, right at the top, are the two greatest defensive catchers in baseball history. And that, in turn, puts Yadier Molina with some of the greatest catchers in Major League Baseball history. It's Molina, it's Rodriguez, it's Johnny Bench. Those are the three you talk about. And you put Berra in that category at times, but he is among the greatest catchers that we have ever seen in the history of this game. Mauer is not. I like Joe Mauer. He's a fantastic baseball player, but he's just not.
And like even what you said before, Molina prepares the pitchers to win ball games and get these guys into the postseason. I mean, Mauer only got Minnesota 3 years into the postseason as a catcher.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a big argument if he's a top 5 catcher of all time. I think Yadier Molina is. I mean, he's just been that good for that long. For a team that I know Mauer may get slightly big because he plays in Minnesota, you don't get as much spotlight. But if you're playing in the spotlight year in, year out, and your play does not fall off a bit, you get credit for that. I'm sorry. That's the big thing with Jeter may have been a little overrated, but you know what? He played the same for so many years. You get credit for that, for being in the spotlight and performing day in, day out with something like that. One for a marquee franchise. You just do.
Yeah. And I think Mauer may be a top 10 catcher of all time, but when you
offensively
talk about,
probably higher, but the defense,
right. When you talk about
out.
that top 5, it's Berra, it's Pudge, it's Yachty, it's Johnny Bench. Those are the guys. Those are the guys that will go down as the best catchers in Major League Baseball history.
Yep, definitely. So I thought that was just a nice little discussion we could have here. Because I know you two are big Cardinals fans. I wanted to kind of get your opinion on there and maybe just balance out a little bit what he was saying and just kind of going on from there. I thought it was just a nice little discussion we could have there. Is there any other news in baseball? I don't
think so.
Tim Tebow got invited to spring training.
More money for the AAA, for the single A team, whatever.
Yep. He didn't do too bad. 8 home runs, 52 RBIs, batted 226. I mean, that's the only bad
226. Yeah. When you're batting 226, when you're batting 226 in single A, you don't belong. Come on now. That's ridiculous. It's single A.
Yeah.
If you're batting 226 in single A, that equates to 083 in the majors. It's ridiculous.
He's there to sell tickets.
Maybe
for real. Exactly. It's a publicity stunt at this point. I'm sorry. Tim Tebow's a great athlete.
He's a great human being. He's a great human being. He's not a great baseball player or quarterback. Sorry. No. Also, the Players Union rejects MLB proposal to institute a 20-second pitch clock and limits on pitching mound. The Players Union rejected those proposals by the MLB, so that's where we're at right now. There was going to be a 20-second clock where the batter had to be in the box within 5 seconds of the end of the clock, and it reset after the ball left the mound. So I don't know if I like the pitch clock in baseball because it's the only game that you don't have a clock. There's no clock.
It just makes it a little bit too complicated. Everybody's got to be watching something in that situation. I think obviously, if you're the MLB, you want ways to speed the game up. The 2-minute clock in between innings has been a great way to do it. They've sped up. They've sped up replay a little bit in the last few years because it was so slow.
Yes.
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, the replay is sped up, and honestly, the players really don't. They take their time no matter what, no matter still. Even they say the game speed up 7 minutes, 10 minutes.
Right.
Even when going to a game, you can watch the clock. I mean, fans can see where the clock's at. They're still taking their time.
Well, and one of these things is you got to look at. Somebody's got to tell these guys after every pitch, these guys are stepping out of the box. They're messing with their gloves. They're messing with their helmet. They're, doing whatever, retying their cleats, whatever. Somebody's got to tell these guys, enough's enough. Get in the box and hit the freaking baseball.
That's what makes my dad so mad about watching Lorenzo Cain. Every time you get off the bat, he puts the bat to his chest, undo his gloves, redo it, resituate, and then come back up. I know it's a routine thing, but at the same time, it's your gloves are probably tight the last 3 seconds you did it. I mean, it's probably fine for now.
Well, did he swing?
No. Sometimes people just not swing.
Yeah, a lot of guys are taking pitches and then stepping out of the box, and it's getting ridiculous.
And honestly, say they go over the time right now, there's been no enforcement of hey.
I think it was going to be a strike for a hitter and a ball for a pitcher. If it's whoever the fault it is.
And, it hasn't even happened yet.
Mm-mm.
And so yeah, it's definitely something to look at. Also, the Royals have still not done anything with their star players, but that's by the point.
The other thing that's sped them up a little bit has been the automatic walk.
Yeah, I like it.
With you don't have to throw the 4 pitches to intentionally walk a guy
and accidentally throw one over the strike zone and have the guy hit it.
Vladimir.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Go back to Vladimir Guerrero.
Go Vlad. Okay, that's good for MLB talk. Had a lot of good discussions on that one. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do a little about the NFL and the fire blank head coach epidemic that's happening right now, and how anytime anything bad happens in any type of situation, it's always fire the head coach. So I want to talk about that next. Coming up next on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. As we are back here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff, Devin, Ryan, Jacob, and Kramer for today's show. Should be a fun one here, as we've already talked about. Of course, Bearcat Athletics, as well as the AFC and NFC Championship games, MLB talk, including Hall of Fame, Maurer versus Molina, among others, hot stove things in the MLB. But now, back to the NFL. Just this past week in the national media, I just wanted to get something off my chest here, because there's always this talk after playoff games, after big games, fire so-and-so who's the head coach who lost a big game. And I just get so sick of it, because you see this all the time, which I don't think the Steelers are going to do it, because the Steelers are a well-run organization where they've had 3 coaches in 1,000 years. I mean, they don't fire coaches. And second of all, they had the Rooney Rule named after them, so I don't think they're going to fire an African-American coach after a 13-3 season into the divisional round. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen at all with that. It's just every time, like, I get criticizing coaches like Reed, Tomlin, Peyton for decisions they make during a game. But when you come out and say so-and-so should be fired because they don't hold up to the Patriots standard. Well, you know what? Nobody holds up to the Patriots standard besides the Patriots. And we see that in college football in the SEC. Well, he's not Nick Saban when it comes to Les Miles. Well, nobody is Nick Saban besides Nick Saban. I hate that standard you put to some head coaches where it's like, yes, I want them to get better, but you know what? I think they also need more time. Some quarterbacks even just have a bad game. And you know what? In the NFL, winning in the playoffs requires a few things. It does require a lot of skill, head coaching, a lot of talent, but also it requires luck, requires health, it requires certain breaks during a game. So it's a lot of stuff that's out of your control sometimes. And I just don't like hey, well, you know, he's not Bill Belichick, so we must get something different so we can get the next Bill Belichick. He doesn't grow on trees. So I just hate that discussion when it comes to talking about coaches and firing them after if there's a little bit of a locker room issue, like Pete Carroll in Seattle, like there's questions there. I just don't understand. Like, they're proven winners. Why would you fire a proven winner? We saw what happened to the Chargers after they fired Schottenheimer after a 14-2 season. They've been in the playoffs once since, and they got to play Cincinnati in the playoffs, so they got a playoff win. But other than that, it's like the Chargers haven't been able to rebound and get to that old 14-2 self since then, because they fired a head coach who was proven. They've hired guys since who haven't been as good. I just don't like that standard we hold to some coaches where, yes, you can criticize them, but calling for their jobs 24 hours after they lose a big playoff game to a team that's equal or it's about the same footing makes zero sense to me.
So you mentioned 3 guys in that little segment there with Tomlin, Peyton, and Reed. I think Tomlin's a whole nother story. Tomlin's a guy that, they went 13-3. They were close. And normally you want to say close. Well, close isn't good enough, because in this league, you want to win. But in Tomlin's case, Tomlin's already got a ring. He's proven he can win. Peyton's the same way. Peyton's already got a ring. These are guys that have proven that they can win a Super Bowl because they've done it. You don't fire them after a huge winning season.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I didn't like this week was I'm a Colin Cowherd fan. I listen to his stuff, but when he told Drew Brees should leave the Saints, I thought he was absolutely crazy with that, because if you look at Sean Payton with Drew Brees in New Orleans, you look at 10 wins, 7, 8, 13, 11, 13, 11, 7, 7, 7, 11 this year. I'm like, yes, they had 3 years they were awful on defense, but where is Drew Brees going to find an offensive mind just as good as Sean Payton elsewhere? The grass isn't always green on the other side. I get quarterbacks should use their power a little more in free agency and stuff like that, but where is Drew Brees going to go that's a better situation than the Saints offensively?
You look at this team, and if you improve the defense a little bit, this is an easy Super Bowl contender.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
And it was already massively improved over last year.
So we've talked about Tomlin, we've talked about Peyton. I want to address Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a little bit of a different animal. This is a guy that Yeah, Kramer, literally.
He gets hungry, okay?
This is a guy that you know, this is the NFL. In the NFL, you want to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl. You measure your season on whether or not you won the Super Bowl. In my opinion, that's the way the NFL works. And at some point, I'm not saying it has to be this year, but at some point, if Andy Reid continues to prove that he just doesn't have it, he can't win a Super Bowl. If at some point he doesn't bring a ring home, then it's time. You got to quit being okay with being close. You got to quit being okay with being, we won 11 games. We were almost there. You got to quit accepting that if your coach has not proven that he can do it.
And to real quick speak to Devin's point, a lot of these reactions on these coaches where maybe they make a mistake in a close game, it's all right after the game.
Right.
It's all gut check reaction. 3, 4, 5 days where we're not, next week we're not going to hear people calling for Mike Tomlin's job.
Right.
But in regards to a lot of these coaches, this is, like you said, Ryan, this is the NFL. The question as front office, as players, is you have to ask, can your coach win a Super Bowl? If you do not believe that, and I don't care if you went 14-2 and lost in the AFC Championship game, if you believe as an organization that coach cannot get you to a Super Bowl, then it doesn't matter what that coach did. That coach needs to go, and you need to go find someone else, and maybe it backfires. But if this league is run on Super Bowls, and if your you don't believe your coach can get there, you need to go try someone else.
And the one counterpoint I would have to that argument is I think Andy Reid can get to there. He's been to, 5 NFC championship games in Philly, went to the Super Bowl once where they lost to the Patriots by a field goal. Of course, Kansas City's been hit or miss there in the playoffs. And I think part of that's Andy Reid. Part of that was I'm a big Alex Smith supporter, but Alex Smith in the playoffs is not as good as Alex Smith regularly. So that's one thing there. And one thing I will look at, his best quarterback in Philly was Donovan McNabb. He is on the same level that Peyton and Tomlin had with Breeze and Roethlisberger. That's one thing I got to look. It's got to be the coach-quarterback duo together when you're evaluating some of these head coaches. So, Doug Marrone right now getting Blake Bortles to the AFC Championship game, that's really impressive. That's bravo for having a defense that's that good. You can just manage Bortles enough to get to the NFC Championship game. That's one thing I would like. Reid is a really good. He's been coaching 19 years. 16 have been 8-8 or better. That's just outstanding. The only ones that weren't were his first year in Philly, his last year in Philly, and they're in the middle in 05. He had a 6-10 year. Other than that, it's at least 8 wins, and most of them are over 10 wins. So he's just a good head coach. His worst season in Kansas City is 9-7.
Here's my point, though. At some point, you have to look at this and go, where's the results? Give me something. Give me a title. Where is the title? If at some point, if you look 3, 4, 5 years down the road and it still hasn't happened yet, at some point you got to say, where is it, Andy?
And I think he's retired by that point. But
where is that result?
And I get what you're saying with that, but I think in the NFL, a lot of it is health. And I said health, luck, those tough breaks. And I don't think they've got that. They've looked at that one year in Kansas City when they went and lost to the Colts. First of all, never should lose a 28-point lead. But if you look in that game, Charles goes down, top 2 receivers go down. A lot of things had to happen for the Colts to win that game. A quarterback gets their own fumble. You can't have those self-destructions. He's had only 4 times in playoff history of an 18-point lead being blown in the second half, and twice has been Andy Reid. So that doesn't look good. I understand. There's all these drawbacks against Andy Reid, but just what he does for the organization, I think he needs to maybe evolve a little more. Maybe that's what you're saying, hey, learn from your mistakes a little bit better. I think he can do that. I think, hey, don't play call as much. He's a great play designer. I think sometimes he didn't have the feel for the game when it comes to play calling. So maybe if he can work with that a little better. I just think there's enough there for Andy Reid to win, especially if Pat Mahomes becomes what some Chiefs fans hope that he becomes. Maybe he can get that next couple of years. And another thing that I look at with some of these franchises who think they're premier when they're really not. I'm a Chiefs fan. We're not a premier franchise. The Chiefs are not a premier franchise, so you're not going to get anything better than Andy Reid to come to town to be your head coach. If you're in Cincinnati, who are you going to get that's better than Marvin Lewis at this point, and who you're actually going to be able to afford because your owner's a cheapskate? Who are you going to get? Who wants to come and coach the Cleveland Browns right now instead of Hugh Jackson? Who actually wants that job? Not a whole lot of people. So at the same point, you got to look at, yes, we want something different, but can we get anything better? Is there anything better out there for us to get? Because you know what? Belichick's not leaving New England, in my opinion.
And my point is, why does better have to cost more? Why does Better have to be a proven head coach? Why can't you start new?
I've seen it too many times in Kansas City. I've just seen it too many times.
That's right where I was going to go is we're seeing in a lot of these firings and then replacements, it's all high-profile offensive coordinators or John Gruden coming back. Well, look what the Rams went and did.
Yeah.
No one had really heard of Sean McVay before he was hired. They went and found a young guy, and now they've got a coach there that is probably going to get them prepared to make a Super Bowl run.
And the Niners got Shanahan. So there's definitely them out there, but I don't see how many of those guys would jump at Kansas City. And I know the Chiefs right now are kind of a different animal. With drafting Mahomes last year, they want Reid to groom Mahomes into what they want him to be. So, and maybe Mahomes, I thought Mahomes was going to have Nagy be his apprentice kind of, and maybe a couple years whenever Reid retires, wants to move to the front office, then Nagy takes over. But of course, Nagy went to Chicago, so that was out of the window. But I think he is trying to, and you can see Reid's coaching tree. He knows how to coach coaches below him as well to do their job. So you can see his coaching tree is really good. I mean, he has Doug Peterson, who's in the NFC Championship game right now with Philly. So I think he's going to leave a good foundation for the Chiefs once he leaves, too, because I think he's going to groom a guy to take over his position. So I just don't like when it comes to this stuff, and people and fan bases get too full of what they think their team is, and their expectations are too high, and when you don't live it perfectly to them, it's impossible to bring those emotions down just a bit. And I see that a lot with SEC schools when it's like, hey, well, you know what, we finished 10-2, but you know what, we didn't beat Alabama, so must get something different. Like, I just don't like that standard when it comes to stuff. Like, you know what, at some time, know your organization and know it's different, a little bit different in college because there's some systematic differences between an Alabama and a Vanderbilt. Like, there's just differences there, but you need to be able to almost temper yourself a little bit. You know, like, you know what, if you're a Chiefs fan, I know that this is probably me settling for mediocrity, but I don't think it's mediocrity in this situation. You've had 11, 9, 11, 12, and 10 win seasons the last 5 years. If you look at Chiefs history, since Mario Schottenheimer, that hasn't happened like ever. So, same point, just being in the dance and having a chance of saying something breaks your way is what you want to be at. I don't want to be one of those teams where you fall off and all of a sudden you're the Bills for 19 years, you don't make the playoffs, and then you're just miserable for 2 decades. Like, that's impossible to deal with.
And it's always not the coach's fault. Like, okay, so you say you're in the playoffs. Some player may not perform the way he's been. And that's right there, like once, like say wide receiver, your all-star wide receiver, Pro Bowl, I should say, and he catches one pass that he had 10 targets to him, and he dropped 5, and that's the reason why you lost. Like, sometimes it's not always the coach's fault.
Right, but I think the bottom line is you hire a head coach to win you a Super Bowl. That's in the NFL. Every single head coach you hire in the NFL, you hire him to win you a Super Bowl. And so if you've given him enough time and he hasn't done it, it's time to move on.
That's true.
I don't know if the Chiefs have given Andy Reid enough time. We'll see. We'll see. I would love for him to show up and go, you know what? Now is my time. But if you give him 2, 3, 4 more years and he doesn't, it's time.
With Andy Reid, this year is not the year to say, okay, he hasn't done it, we need to move on. We're switching quarterbacks. We're moving on from Alex Smith. I know that's not technically official yet, but it's going to happen. We're going to Mahomes. We need to give Andy Reid a shot because he's already spent a year with him. We need to give him at least 2 years with Mahomes to try to go get a Super Bowl.
And you've seen this
after that 2 years, though. That's when you need to start asking the question of, is 11 wins and losing in the divisional round?
It's amazing what happens when you get an elite quarterback, how much better your head coaching looks because it masks mistakes. I mean, you had McCarthy this past year with the Packers. He's been looked at as a pretty good head coach because Aaron Rodgers. Lose Aaron Rodgers, all of a sudden your team's bad. All those holes that you didn't see before are showing up. Pete Carroll got fired with the Jets before he went to Seattle and got Russell Wilson. All of a sudden he's winning now. Tomlin's had Big Ben as all of his years there. They've won a lot. Drew Brees with Sean Payton. I mean, that's a big key to some of this stuff right there is that quarterback and head coach combo. That's why the Patriots are so good because they have the best head coach and probably the best quarterback of all time. That's going to be a really hard combo to beat. I mean, just in general, why I picked him in the playoffs this week. So I just wanted to, raise that question is you know what? You don't need to fire everybody after every little thing. That's why I joked last night. Fire McCollum. I'm kidding. It's not going to happen. You lose one game. It's not what should happen. You just see it way too much where you see that gut reaction. And I get tired of it every once in a while because I know the national, you want storylines to talk about and some discussions. And that's one big thing that comes out of this. But some points you know what? This is ridiculous. They're not firing Mike Tomlin. They're just not going to do it. The Steelers are smart.
That's one thing you look at is that Mike Tomlin and Sean Payton are both knee-jerk reactions. Those are both, they lost a game. I think the argument for Andy Reid now is that it's starting to become a habit. It's starting to become a trend. Once it starts to become a trend, then the conversation is actually relevant. And that's where, in that situation, it's not after every little thing. It's after now it's been a few years in a row where we're like, okay, what are we doing here?
That's why I'm
and that's where I don't. It's if you get 3-4 years down the road with Mike Tomlin or Sean Payton and you get the same results, you're kind of chugging along, going, we've gotten to this point and we can't get past it. What are we doing? Then maybe you have the conversation about Sean Payton and Mike Tomlin.
And it's also
as well.
different if you lose the locker room completely. There's mutiny in there. That's completely different than the win-loss on the field because you have to also control the locker room at the same time. So that's good for that discussion. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have our college basketball picks up next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And we are back here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. Devin, Ryan, Jacob, and Kramer here on the show today. Trevor was fired this week. We might rehire him next week. We're not sure yet. But right now, we're going to head on to college basketball. A lot of good games going on this weekend. Trevor's not here, so we don't have to make fun of Iowa getting beat by Purdue this Saturday. We won't have to do that. But we'll just go on to the next game here on our pick'ems. We got Wichita State at Houston. Wichita State lost earlier this week. What do you guys think about this game for the American Conference, Athletic Conference? Let's go you first, Kramer.
I'm going to go Wichita State. I'll be with the Shockers on this.
Well, Trevor, Joe, and Caleb all agree with you.
That's good.
I have also got Wichita State. And one thing about college basketball this year is nobody wants to take control of the nation right now.
Yeah. No one wants to be the favorite.
And Wichita State has the makeup to be that. And they struggled with SMU, but SMU, I think, shot 63% from the field, 50% from the three-point line. Shake Milton decided to have, a career game. You're going to lose those games. They're still trying to work Marcus McDuffie back into the lineup, coming back from that stress fracture he had in his foot. They're trying to work him back in. They've got the pieces. They already beat Houston this year. I know it was at home, but you're going to come out fired up, ready to go back in there, take Houston the second time. I think Wichita State probably steamrolls this game. They have been, other than the last couple games, have been running over the American Conference so far. They struggle with Tulsa. They struggle with SMU, and I think some of that does have to do with Marcus McDuffie coming back, trying to work him, get him some minutes. But once Marcus McDuffie gets worked back in and everything works out with Frank Camp and Shamet and Shaq Morris down there, this is a top team in the nation.
And I think Wichita State, this is a team that is going to roll the American Conference. This is their conference. There's just nobody else in the conference. Cincinnati's okay, but they're not good enough to really compete with Wichita State at the top the whole season. And so this is their conference, which is, I think, only marginally better than them winning the Missouri Valley, because the American is not a great basketball conference. But I think Wichita State is the exception in the American. They're the one elite team that the American has. I don't think that they're going to end up being a favorite for the NCAA tournament, but I think they're going to be one of those teams that you look at and go, maybe a step down from a favorite. You look at a 2 seed and you go, well, I've got a shot.
The one thing about Wichita State is, although the American isn't, they're not as good, and they're not as good right now as I think a lot of people thought they were coming into the season. I think a lot of people thought Houston, Memphis, SMU were going to be better than they are. And with Wichita State, but being in the American, they've got that name. It's not a Power 5, but it's right there at that sixth conference.
Mm-hmm. Power 6, baby.
They're not going to end up with a 7 seed losing 4 games for the season.
Right.
They're going to get the seeding that they deserved, and that's what's going to help them later.
They'll get. I imagine them getting about a 2 seed.
They're hungry. They're really hungry.
Yeah, definitely there. And Wichita State, according to OddsShark, is a 2-point favorite on the road. I think one thing that hurt in the American Athletic Conference right now is UConn being down. That really hurts that conference, because if you have that brand name UConn being up and decent, that really helps your conference elevate. And if Memphis was a little bit better, it would definitely help Wichita State's claim on winning a better conference. Definitely, if that happens. That name power has a lot for college basketball when it comes to certain teams like that. But I think Wichita State, the Shockers, take this one as well. Next game we'll go to here, Ohio State at Minnesota. Ohio State is a 10-point favorite on this one. If we go to our picks, looks like everybody, Trevor, Joe, and Caleb, all taking Ohio State. I'll take the Buckeyes as well. I think Minnesota is just too banged up right now to contend with a pretty good Buckeyes team. We'll go to you next, Ryan.
Yeah, Minnesota's seen, they had a great start to their season. Non-conference play was really good for the Gophers, but They're just not the same team right now. It's not clicking. They're struggling. You mentioned they've been banged up. They've had guys out. They've had guys playing at less than 100%. It just hasn't been their stretch right now, and I think they're still in the middle of that stretch of games where they're just not clicking, and I think Ohio State's going to take advantage of that, and I think Ohio State is one of the top 3 teams in the Big Ten right now.
And Minnesota's lost 4 of their last 5 games, and some of them, I mean, they 34-point loss to Purdue
at home,
and a 23 loss to Northwestern. This team is struggling, and Ohio State has the opportunity to take control of the Big Ten with this game. If they go in to Minnesota, take care of business, they're going to be 8-0 in the conference, at the top of the Big Ten, with a Big Ten that's not necessarily super powerful this year, a Big Ten that's struggling a little bit. So I think Ohio State takes care of business, and they with forgetting his name, their star they've got right now.
I'm trying to remember what his name is.
Yeah.
I cannot remember for the life of me.
Well, their star player, we'll get that second.
That there guy.
Yeah.
This guy is
It's
Bates.
Keon Bates, yes.
Bates Diapo.
Yes.
I may probably butchered his other part name, but Bates.
Him, he's probably right now your front runner for the Big Ten Player of the Year.
Him and the big guy for Purdue.
Yeah, and Ohio State, unfortunately for Minnesota, will probably win big on Saturday.
How about our Michigan fan here?
I am sorry, but I will not pick Ohio State for this at all.
The Ohio State.
Yeah, the Ohio State. I'm sorry. I go blue. That's the only reason why I'm going for this. Plus, also underdogs on this. Minnesota. I mean, I know they're banged up and all, but I mean, they can shock somebody.
Yeah, definitely. If you play hungry enough at home,
Exactly.
you hang in for a little bit, you could definitely, for the last 5 minutes, make a run at
I
somebody.
think now, obviously, if Minnesota doesn't get it done, then it's time to look ahead to Wednesday, February 7th in West Lafayette, Indiana, Ohio State at Purdue. That will be, I think, once you get to that point, because Ohio State, outside of that, Nebraska, Penn State, Indiana, Illinois are their next few games, all very winnable games. Then you head to Purdue, and I think that is the game for the Big Ten championship regular season.
Up next, we have Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma is a 2-point favorite on the road in this one, and it looks like the same trend going on. Trevor, Joe, and Caleb cheating off each other, all taking Oklahoma. I'm going to cheat off them, too. I'm taking the Sooners. Trey Young is just too good, so I'm taking the Sooners on the road. Even though it is tough to win in the Big 12 on the road, I think OU.
Tough to win in the Big 12 in general.
That is true. They just did lose at K-State. I think K-State's a different type of program than Oklahoma State is at this moment, so I will take Oklahoma to take down Oklahoma State in the Battle of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think you look at Trey Young. He's young. He's a freshman. He makes mistakes. You know, you saw that against Kansas State. He had a bad game against Kansas State, and if you can play good enough defense to force Trey Young to have a bad game, you will beat Oklahoma. It's not a chance. You will beat Oklahoma if you force Trey Young to have a bad game. Oklahoma cannot win a basketball game where Trey Young doesn't play well. However,
he drives their entire offense.
Yeah. However, Oklahoma State doesn't have that defense. They don't have that kind of defense that can shut down Trey Young, and I think it's just Trey Young is going to be too powerful for Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State on a bit of a downtick this year. They've struggled, especially defensively, and I think Oklahoma has a distinct advantage there.
I mean, Oklahoma is second in the nation, 92 points per game, so that could be a trouble for Oklahoma State's defense. Yeah,
I've got Oklahoma as well in this one, but we did see with the K-State game how to beat Oklahoma. You guys mentioned it. You've got to play Trey Young tough.
If he doesn't play well, they will not win.
And one thing is, as Oklahoma, you have to be willing to be okay with 6 to 8 turnovers a game from Trey Young when he has the ball in his hands 95% of the time. Everything runs through Trey Young, and Oklahoma State knows that. Everyone in the Big 12 knows that.
And their grandma.
and Oklahoma State's football team knows that.
And you know you're going to have to do that. So as Oklahoma, you have to be ready for 6 to 8 turnovers for Trey Young. 12.
Yeah, that's excessive.
That's excessive.
And if he doesn't shoot well, as well, is usually a problem.
But I think, and what we saw
it takes 45 shots.
With his response, with Trey Young's response from his poor game, he'll come out against Oklahoma State, get back to what we've seen all year, and another blowout I think we'll see on Saturday.
I'm agreeing with you guys. Oklahoma, they score too much.
They're just too good offensively. Yeah,
exactly. In K-State, it's going to be prove that they can beat them, but still, they score a lot.
Oklahoma, honestly, yes, Oklahoma's a great basketball team. This is a team that just I don't think has the sticking power to stay where they are right now, they're not going to be a top 10 team by the time the end of the season rolls around. They'll be, top 20, top 15 because Trae Young's going to have a couple bad games along the way.
And a dangerous team comes tournament time.
That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you look at Oklahoma, and that's just the way it's going to be. They're not going to get a top 2 seed probably because that's just the way it's going to go. But they're going to be a scary 3 or a scary 4. And Trae Young, the AAU teammate of Michael Porter Jr., he's got all the talent in the world. It's going to be interesting to see what he does at the end of the year. If he goes ahead and jumps ship and heads to almost inevitable NBA stardom, or if Oklahoma gets him for another year.
And just say with Trae Young here, last time they played Oklahoma State in Norman, they beat him Oklahoma 109-89. The low scoring half for Oklahoma was a 50-point half. They scored 59 in the second half. Trae Young had 27 points on 7 of 17 shooting, 1 of 6 from 3-point line. He didn't shoot well, but he had 10 assists and 9 rebounds in that game. So he was 1 rebound away from triple-double in the last game versus Oklahoma State. So maybe more of the same here against the Cowboys in this one. Next game here is Xavier versus Seton Hall. Should be a fun one. Right now, Seton Hall is a 1.5-point favorite at home. Looking across here, and Trevor, Joe, and Caleb all took Xavier. I'm thinking Seton Hall. I think they're a team that plays a lot better at home than they do on the road, like a lot of college basketball teams do. And I think they can have enough to beat Xavier in this one. Should be a fun game for the Big East, though. We'll let Kramer go next.
I'm going with Seton Hall as well with you, Devin.
Yes!
Like you said, they do play. I mean, everybody plays better at home. But still, Seton Hall's that different team that, they live up the intensity at some point, and they also have like their fan base too backing them up. And this is a huge game. It's gonna be, of course, televised on ESPN probably. But yeah, I'm going with Seton Hall. Fox in this one.
Yep.
It's gonna be televised somewhere.
Yep. Jacob,
I am not a Seton Hall believer. I wasn't last year when we saw them work their way up into the rankings. I just am not this year. Although I will say they do have a very balanced scoring attack. That's the one thing that is going to keep them in this game. And with the Xavier has the opportunity, or we've been waiting for them to take the opportunity to this year take control of the Big East. They haven't done that. With Trayvon Blewett, J.P. McCurra, those guys with Xavier, you've got experience. I think they roll into Seton Hall. They get the win. But I think this is one of the best games of the weekend with what's going on. It's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be a close game, but I think Xavier gets one on the road.
Only top 25 matchup this week. What about you, Ryan?
The Big East is back, baby. I mean, with Xavier and Seton Hall, Creighton, Villanova. I mean, yes, Xavier hasn't taken over the Big East, but Villanova is the only reason that they haven't taken over the Big East. I think Xavier's a sleeper pick as a national title contender. Xavier's an incredibly talented team. They gave Villanova all they could handle on the road. The score didn't end up the way it really the game was. It was a 24-point win for Villanova, but Xavier played Villanova really hard in the first half. Nova had a lot of difficulty, and they ended up coming back on a huge run in the second half and actually winning the ball game. But at the same time, the 2 losses have been on the road to Villanova, on the road at Providence. Dominated Creighton at home last week. Wins against Cincinnati, against Baylor at home. And this is a team that I think has a good chance to really make a splash in the NCAA tournament. And this super, super talented ball team, so I'm going with Xavier.
What does Xavier have that Seton Hall really doesn't? And that's a star in Trayvon and Blewett. And that's what will put them to the next level above Seton Hall. And for Xavier, what's going to help them challenge some of the top teams in the country.
And I think that game at home on the 17th of February at home against Villanova is going to be a ball game. And I think Xavier's got a chance to take control of the Big East in that game.
And up next, we have number 24, TCU at Kansas State. A little bit of disagreement with our people who are either not here or our producers. Trevor, he's taking TCU, as is Joe. But Caleb, he's taking K-State and the Wildcats. I'm taking TCU as well. K-State is a 2.5-point favorite, I believe, in this one right now at home. A 2-point favorite at home in this one. What do you first, Ryan? What do you think here? Do you think the Wildcats pull this one out versus the Horned Frogs?
Honestly, I mean, this could go either way. It's going to be a good basketball game. Kansas State's a good defensive team. They're physical.
Salt versus Trae Young.
And they've given some of the best teams in the country all they could handle. Kansas, came down to the wire. Obviously, they beat Oklahoma. But what I see here in TCU is this is a team that has struggled recently. They've had some issues. This is a team that's angry. And Kansas State has not had a good history with angry teams. Kansas State has had a very bad history with angry teams.
That's fair.
And when a team comes out angry, generally Kansas State tends to come out pretty flat. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Kansas State's going to get off to a slow start. They'll come back and make it a close game, but I think TCU's got just a little bit more than Kansas State can handle here.
I have Kansas State in this game, and part of that is TCU is struggling right now. They just lost Jalen Fisher for the season. I don't see them even wanting to get up for this game. You're struggling. You lose, arguably one of your best players. You've got a Kansas State team that's playing well right now. They almost go win in Allen Fieldhouse. Probably should have won that game. They had one of the most puzzling end-of-game possessions I've seen in a while.
Hey, yes, he shouldn't have held the basketball, but Kansas played great defense on that possession.
Yes, they did, but Kansas State's playing well right now. You have Dean Wade, you have Barry Brown. You've got these guys that, they're older, and that's another thing in the Big 12 and all conferences that helps. And with TCU, they've got the experience, but you lose Jalen Fisher, and I just don't think TCU overcomes that.
And what about you, Kramer?
I'm going with TCU on this. I know K-State has really good defense on this, but I mean, even with Jalen Fisher out for the season, they're still going to be scoring. And I mean, of course, they're angry, they're hungry, they want to win, and I got TCU on this.
And who's TCU's head coach? I keep forgetting. Was that Pitt before? Man, I'm drawing a blank right now, but he's a pretty good head coach. I don't really trust what he's doing there in TCU, making them into a legitimate team in the Big 12, because before he got there, they were bad.
Mm-hmm.
They were awful.
It was a terrible basketball team.
What is his name? I keep just...
Jamie Dixon.
There it is. He's been really nice for that team and getting them back to where they need to be in the Big 12, kind of competing a little bit there, even though it looks like Kansas, of course, is going to win the Big 12 again, because it's what they do every stinking year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not salty about that at all.
Well,
it might be different this year.
Kansas always finds a way to win the Big 12
game lead now.
Because the rest of the Big 12
beats up on each other every year. Figure it out, people.
Well, here's the
one
deal.
team is going to beat them and just go.
This is, I think, the ACC is good, but this is hands down the best conference in the country right now.
It's deepest,
and,
for sure.
And it's a matter of there are so many great teams, and then there's a Kansas program that's just a step ahead of everybody else. Just barely a step ahead of everybody else. But you've got all these teams in West Virginia's a great team. Oklahoma's a great team. TCU's a pretty good team. Texas Tech's a great team. These are all teams that all have a shot, that are all really, really good, but then there's something about the tradition, the history, the blue blood program at Kansas that just takes that step forward ahead of all these other teams.
That's definitely fair. It looks like Kansas is going to win the Big 12. It's what they're on pace to do right now. But I'm just happy right now as a Mizzou fan that they're fifth in the SEC. I'm happy about that.
Let's talk about that for a second.
They're 13-5 overall, 3-2 in conference play. They just upset Tennessee in their home floor this past week. So I'm liking the progress they're seeing without Michael Porter Jr. If he can happen to come back for March time, definitely a team that could look out for, if not sooner. So we don't know with his injury what's going to happen, but they do have A&M tomorrow on the road. So tough game.
Let's talk about that for a second, because Missouri is in a position where it's tough to be in the SEC right now, because honestly the SEC is not very good. They're not bad, but they're not. Florida's pretty good. Auburn's been good.
Not the same
Kentucky's
team.
Not Kentucky. Alabama's been good, but I don't ever trust Alabama in basketball.
Nick Saban's not coaching them.
Right. That's true. That's 100% true. You mentioned Texas A&M. Texas A&M had a great start non-conference and then started 0-5 in conference play.
Tennessee's okay.
Right. And so you look at Mizzou. A lot of years you would say, okay, they go just barely under 500 in conference play in a major conference. You've got a chance to make the tournament pretty easy. Mizzou, I think, is going to have a winning record in the SEC to make the tournament. I think they're very capable of doing that.
They're 3-2 right now.
Yeah, I think they're very, very capable of doing that. I don't know if 500 will get them there. It just depends on where everything falls. The RPI in the SEC is really good because they did succeed in non-conference play, but I think that's going to drop a little bit when you get to the Big 12 ACC Challenge.
Yep.
Because or Big 12 SEC Challenge, because the SEC got a horrible draw in that challenge.
Yeah. When's that start?
I think it's this next weekend.
Okay, I'm going to look at some of those games.
Like the 27th and 28th. So you've got
here we go.
Kentucky gets West Virginia, which is an awful draw.
Here, I'll just go through them. We got Texas Tech at South Carolina, Baylor at Florida, Ole Miss at Texas, Georgia K-State, Oklahoma at Alabama, Tennessee at Iowa State, TCU Vandy, A&M at Kansas, Oklahoma State at Arkansas, Kentucky at West Virginia. I mean,
Kentucky's not going to win in Morgantown.
Nope.
It's not going to happen. So the two games you look at and you think the SEC might have a chance are Tennessee, Iowa State, and Florida and whoever they play. Who did they play? Baylor. Florida and Baylor. I think those are the two games you look at and go, okay, there's a shot there. Everywhere else you go, oh boy, the SEC is grossly overmatched in every single one of these matchups outside of that.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great for the SEC on that one.
One thing about the SEC is, unlike the Big 12, which is very almost top-heavy, the SEC is middle-heavy. They've got a lot of teams. And even when you look at the standings, 2 and 3, 3 and 3, 3 and 2, right there in the middle, they don't really have much at the top. And that's where, like you said, Mizzou is probably going to have a winning record, is when you've got a team where you're going to have a lot of bubble teams, essentially, from the SEC come tournament time. There's only going to be 2 or 3 teams that are locks. They're probably going to end up with 4 or 5 in the tournament, but they're going to have 9 teams that have an opportunity to, and we're looking mid-February, late March, getting ready to go to tournament time.
Right, and it's just going to be so difficult because in the SEC you've got 2 ranked teams, 18th ranked Kentucky, 21st ranked Tennessee. And, it's tough to look at the rankings because sometimes you don't agree with them. But in this case, you look at the Big 12, you've got 8th-ranked Texas Tech, 4th-ranked Oklahoma, 10th-ranked Kansas, 6th-ranked West Virginia, 24th-ranked TCU, and a couple of teams that are just outside the top 25 in Kansas State and Texas. And so it's tough, man.
Does the Big 12 how many tournament teams does the Big 12 have? 8?
12. Kidding.
They only have 10. 7?
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point.
8, I think 8. I think you skip out on
Iowa State.
Iowa State, obviously, and I think Oklahoma State are the 2 that don't make it. I think Texas is in. Baylor is barely in. But I think then you look at Texas Tech is probably a 3 or a 4 seed. Oklahoma is going to be a 3 or a 4 seed. Kansas is a 1 or a 2. West Virginia is going to be a 1 or a 2. Kansas State can get a 5, maybe a 6. Texas is going to be in the conversation for a 7. TCU is going to be in the conversation for a 7. I think,
and kind of what I was going to go off here is, of course, they do a bracketology throughout the whole year because why not? There's always something to talk about with that. And right now in the Midwest region, Purdue is the 1 seed, Kansas the 2, the 7's, the 10 is Missouri. So right now they'll be in the same little Wichita region right there. Also, Wichita State and Gonzaga in that same half the bracket, according to this.
Boy. So wouldn't that be interesting? A Kansas-Mizzou matchup in the second round.
The possible Wichita State
Based
after
on
that.
Though, aren't we
That's
glad
fun.
That's
fun. I love that.
That it's only January and there's times for some of that.
They also
change.
have Texas as an 8 seed in this one. TCU is a 6. I mean, just Oklahoma's a 2 seed right now. So definitely some things that can change. Texas Tech is a 3 seed. So definitely things that change as we're going forward. But it's always kind of interesting to look. This came out yesterday, so I just saw I saw my Mizzou peeps on Twitter put up there like, can't wait to play Radford in the second round just to take a spike at Kansas fans because you know what, we've missed that rivalry, so it just happens. Even though Mizzou never won it, it's okay to
it's fine.
Go back and forth. It's a good healthy thing back and forth. Exactly. So,
not enough though.
And
then you look at the SEC, and you've got 8 teams in the Big 12. The SEC's probably got 5, maybe 6.
Yeah, definitely.
You look at Florida, obviously, Kentucky, Tennessee. I think those teams are all in. Alabama, Auburn, and then it's a toss-up to see who else you can find in that situation. Maybe Arkansas, maybe South Carolina if they get to play a little bit better.
And a lot of those teams you just mentioned, if they have a rough stretch here in the next couple weeks, they're going to be out.
Right.
Definitely possible.
So you could end up with only 3 or 4 SEC teams. You can also end up with 6 if some of them find a groove.
I think 5 is a pretty safe number to go for the SEC. 6 might be a stretch. 4 might be a little bit too low. But I think you get 5 teams in. The top 5 teams in the SEC, I think, get in unless someone crazy like Georgia or somebody makes a huge run in the SEC tournament.
All right, now before we go to break here, I'm going to say thank you to Kramer and Jacob for coming on. Before we go, though, Kramer, new specialty show every Friday at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Tell us about that real quick before you head out.
New specialty show called Good Old Wrestling. We basically cover WWE with Raw and SmackDown. We also do overseas stuff with New Japan. We also cover Ring of Honor and Impact Pro Wrestling. And we're going to have a special show next Friday about the Royal Rumble.
So, yeah, definitely a new show coming next 106 on Friday. So we'll have 3 sports shows for you. Friday Take, WSK, and Good Old Wrestling. So we got a lot of good things happening here. Another announcement. Next Saturday, January 27th, the Northwest Missouri State Bearcat basketball teams host rival Missouri Western. Wear your cleanest white shirt to the Bearcat Arena for the annual whiteout game. The women's game starts at 1:30 with the men following at 3:30. Prizes and giveaways will be available. We'll take a break, and we're going to bring on Perry and Noah, our dynamic duo, for NBA talk up next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And welcome back into the Weekend Sports Kickoff. It's Devin Albertson, Ryan Elliott, and now the dynamic duo is on. Noah Cooper and Perry Randle. Don't worry, we're on Facebook Live, so you see it. It's dynamic duo is on the graphic there. So you guys are definitely officially now the dynamic duo. So definitely there. We're going to talk about the NBA now, and of course the All-Star game was just released there, where the top 2 vote-getting players were LeBron James and Steph Curry. Not too much surprise in that one. So that's what's going on here. Definitely no surprise with those two. Also, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, and DeMar DeRozan for the East. And for the West, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins were selected the starters. And, of course, they'll do a little pick-em thing to see who gets it. And, of course, LeBron gets the first pick because he had the most votes. What do you guys think of the starters in the All-Star game?
I mean, I don't think any of the starters really came as a surprise. I think these are all the people that were leading the votes the last 3 weeks. The only issue I have with it is that we don't get to see the draft televised. They're keeping
That'd
all
be
that.
Great.
Yeah, they're keeping all that silent. And I mean, I don't really think the players are going to care that much when they get selected because they're still an all-star anyway. So it really shouldn't matter who gets selected first, who gets selected last. I just kind of want to see who selects who here and what order they go in.
I want to see who gets selected last because whoever gets selected last, I'm going to feel bad for them. But at the same time,
put money on it for the All-Star Game MVP.
Right. Hey, for the last person who gets selected also gets a car. So
okay,
that's different.
All right.
I hadn't heard that one yet.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. And I mean,
you're
there's
the
still
West
an
one here.
all-star.
Get a car.
Mm-hmm.
But let me say right now, my first pick is going to have to go ahead and be Anthony Davis.
I'd probably go KD if I'm LeBron, just so Steph can't have him.
Well, if you're LeBron, well, that's the thing. If you're LeBron, I feel like it's kind of important to get a big man down there.
He's gonna draft Kyrie.
See, I'm going Giannis.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer with that. He's getting Durant first overall. I know it.
I'm taking Giannis if I'm LeBron. I think he's just that's an incredible talent to have on your side of the floor.
You see what Steph said? He might take Giannis just so he doesn't get dunked on again.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, that's a smart move.
Psychological
man.
warfare of both teams here. So just kind of interesting. There was one player in particular who thought he got jibed a little bit because he was voted in by the players and the coaches, but the media outvoted him with Kristaps Porzingis, who was voted over by Joel Embiid. He thought that he should have – actually, he won over the players, but – who was the fans in the media definitely voted for Embiid over Porzingis, and there was definitely a back and forth. He's like, players know. That's all I'm going to say about not being an all-star starter over Embiid. And personally, I love both these players. So he was third among the front court starters, so he was going to be a starter in the Eastern Conference according to players, but he finished fourth among the fans and media voters, so he fell back just a little bit there in that one. So
who you got, D? Embiid or Porzingis?
I might lead Embiid this season just because right now the Sixers are in the playoffs and the Knicks are on the outside looking in, I believe, according to the last standing. So I think Embiid, even though he is a little bit banged up a little more often, that 3-game difference in the standings might – for Embiid, just such a good player, too, just watching him play. He can do a few more things better than what Porzingis can because of – he's just massive. Like I know Porzingis is really tall, but even like his girth for Embiid, and he's just so good in the post. I personally love both players, and I wouldn't really mad either way because of course you can get LeBron and Giannis and get the first 2 spots. So he's just down to those two, and they're both going to be all-stars, just that little starter role. Yeah. And I love the pettiness of the NBA anyway, so they're definitely talking back and forth, and that should be a thing during the game. If they're on opposite teams, it should be fun to see them go at each other.
I think it's interesting to me just the respect factor for certain players that deserve it, and then the entertainment factor for other players who are actually going to show out. And I think that's important in this situation, kind of, just because I feel like Embiid will show out just a little bit more than a guy like Porzingis, who might get you a putback every now and then, but he's not going to really do too much, anything different than what Embiid would do. Embiid will give you a euro, something like that, get a little oohs and ahs. That's what I want to see. Exactly. Trust the process. Hey, man, I'm trusting this. So
and he turned on Rihanna now. Like he's like, hey, you want me before, you don't want me now. I'm above you now.
And that's a way to look.
I love it.
That's a great way to think, man. If they didn't want you back then, you got to move on.
Yeah, and the thing with Embiid too, and the Porzingis thing, they're both going to make the team.
Yes.
So I mean, I don't really see why Porzingis should have much problem with it. Whether he's starting or not, he's still going to be an all-star. He's still going to play.
They're probably going to get the same amount of playing time.
Yeah,
too.
and 20 years down the road, they're not going to be like, well, Kristaps Porzingis wasn't an all-star starter, 1 year. I mean, that's not going to be that big of a deal. Yeah. So, I mean, they're still going to get their playing time.
And if you look at their stat lines this year, Porzingis averaging about 24, 7, and about 2.5 blocks per game. Embiid's averaging 24, 11, 3.5 assists, and 2 blocks per game in 32 games, according to 39 games for Porzingis. So it's pretty comparable across the board. So Embiid just a little more star power than Porzingis right now, even though he's playing in Philly and not New York, just because he does have a good presence on social media. He does have that outgoing personality. And that trust the process slogan is really getting him going a little more than Unicorn right now. So, and they're really 2 fun players to watch. And, of course, I'm kind of with you guys. I wish they would announce, do a thing like, hey, this is who I'm taking. I'm taking AD. It's like it's who I want with the brow, and just back and forth. Personally, I think DeRozan will probably be the last pick, so he's getting in a car. That's probably what I'm thinking. He's get the last pick. I also want to see if LeBron is his first pick, I got Kyrie just to screw with people. I just want to see that dichotomy, and how petty any NBA players can get is always great. Yeah. So. And, of course, we won't know who the other players are until later, right?
Next week?
Next week is when they announce that. Mm-hmm. So definitely seeing what's going on back and forth with those guys right there. What else is going on in the NBA right now besides – Kemba Walker is open on the trade market for the Hornets right now. What do you guys think he could possibly fit in across the league?
I think there's a few teams that he could definitely fit in on. One is the Bucks. They've been looking for a point guard all year, and I mean they've had some issues at the point guard position. I don't think Della Vadova would really cut it out for the Bucks. I think the Nuggets, that's another option. They've been searching for a point guard for the last 3 or 4 years, and they haven't been able to find one. And I think the last 2 teams that he'd be pretty good on would be the Pelicans or the Knicks. I think he'd fit on both of those teams quite well. The Pelicans don't really have a solid starting point guard right now, and they're really looking for someone to fill in that role.
I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off of what Noah just said. I'm going to have to say the Pelicans is my favorite for where he should land, just because that will kind of be that third person that they really need other than Boogie and AD to really get some scoring going. I think that Kemba Walker could really help because Rondo's not really a scoring point guard. He's not going to get you 20 a night.
He's dishing.
Yes, exactly. So, and Kemba does a little bit of that. He doesn't do as good as Rondo, not near as good as Rondo, but he can do it. So I think that would be important if they could get him. And then I think another team, like he says, the Nuggets, just because they'll have Paul Millsap coming back, and they also have Jokic, and that's one of my favorite
player to watch. Yeah. So passing big man's always fun to play with.
Right. But the only thing about the Nuggets is that they're kind of guard heavy. They have a Moutier,
Murray.
Yeah, they got plenty of guards. So I think that would be a tough place for him to really fit. Maybe they trade some of those guys, maybe not. But I think my favorite place is the Pelicans for sure.
And right now, Kemba, before I start to cut you off, but he's averaging 21.7 points per game on 42% shooting, averaging almost 6 assists per game. So right now, he's the first pick in 2011. And he's on the trade market along with Nicholas Batum, Dwight Howard, Marvin Williams, and Kid Gilchrist. So they have almost their whole rosters on the trade market.
They're putting up the whole team right now. They're going into tank mode right now.
Everybody but Michael Jordan's right now tradable. That's pretty much what they're saying.
It seems like they don't care about wins at all right now. There's for sure first seat on Tankapalooza right now. They're just riding that bus.
They're 11th in the East, 4 games behind the Pistons and the Sixers for that 8th spot in the playoffs right now. And of course, their head coach Steve Clifford's been suffering with migraines a lot this past year and missed 21 games. He did help coach versus the Wizards. They won that one big. You guys see that game? Dwight Howard shushing the bench after making both free throws. After being chosen to shoot free throws, and he made them both, and he blew a kiss to the bench. I just love the pettiness of the NBA. Like seeing those little things, like, you know what? That's just great. To be able to play back and forth, and it's a blowout, and they're like, we want Dwight to shoot. He's like, okay, I'll make them both, and then just blow you a quick little kiss. Thanks for my stat totals. So, always fun to see that back and forth. So. And I like what you guys said about the Bucks. I know they traded for Bledsoe, but Bledsoe can almost play that off guard and have Kemba in there. It's just more help around Giannis is always great to see for the Bucks.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Nuggets, and I think the Nuggets would be a good place for him to land because they're so young in their backcourt. Their front court is where a lot of their age is. Their backcourt, they're young, and I think Kemba would be that veteran presence in the backcourt that might push them over the top into the playoffs because they're sitting on that 9 spot right now. And I think then, yes, they're guard heavy. They can probably dump some of those guys, and then you bring in a guy like Kemba. Again, it's that veteran presence that might be able to take a team that's just outside of the playoffs into that playoff spot.
And, a guy like Kemba, he's spicy. He likes to dance after his threes and stuff. Sometimes he doesn't even make the three. He's still dancing. But I think he'd be a good presence on that team like the Nuggets just because he'll add to what Jokic already brings to the table. And someone like Paul Millsap, who's quiet, you might even get him going. He's already going. So just add a little bit more with Kemba on that team. I think that would be a nice fit.
Yeah, I really like Kemba on the Nuggets, but to play devil's advocate a little bit, I think the one thing the Nuggets do lack is defense, and I don't think Kemba Walker is going to be helping you out too much on the defensive end.
I don't think he's a defensive liability like some other point guards in the league, but I feel like he's not a great defender. Someone like John Wall, so that's completely different. But I feel like he'll be okay on the Nuggets.
And he's making $12 million this year, so it's not going to absolutely break the bank if you have to bring him in to fit him on the salary cap. So that's not going to be too bad a thing trying to get the match for the salaries, of course, for the trades across the NBA. That's one thing to look for there. Also, one thing I want to say, last night, the Magic Cavs game, you see LeBron's pass between the legs of the defender to D-Wade. You see that gif that's out there, Wade catches the ball and goes, whoo, and then goes up the layup like I can't believe he just made that pass in there. And then, of course, we have to talk about it. The Rockets-Clippers whole situation there where Austin Rivers not playing, but he's talking trash, and Chris Paul doesn't like Austin Rivers because he's Doc Rivers' son, and it's going back and forth. They meet him in the locker room. There's secret tunnels. A couple guys get suspended. Just what do you guys think of that whole situation between Houston and L.A. and just not liking each other one bit? And right now, they'd be playing each other in the first round of the playoffs, so even more spice to it right now.
Well, we talked about it on our podcast, and it was pretty interesting. My point was just that, there's of course going to be a little animosity going on between them just because of what happened over the summer with the trade for Chris Paul, and Lou Williams is now on the Clippers, and he's doing really good. But I think it was important for someone like Chris Paul to get more involved, and it was not his fault. I'll say that it was not his fault, but he needed to be more involved as the president of the Players Union.
Or a peacemaker. Yeah,
exactly. I heard that he was behind Trevor Ariza. He should be in front of Trevor Ariza because they out there, but they about to kill Austin Rivers. They can't let that happen. He's supposed to be president of the Players Union. You can't do that. So this is not a good look on Chris Paul at all. But, there's going to, of course, like I said, be that animosity between those two teams. And hopefully they'll play in the playoffs, and that'll be a fun matchup. But Chris Paul, he's the leader of the Rockets, whether he believes it or not, because since he's been there, they've been doing so well. And I think that he just needs to make sure that he keeps himself on the right track along with the Rockets, keep his players in check as the point guard to keep them on the right track.
And I loved all the stories that came out that night, just all the stuff that was happening.
Secret tunnel.
Are they going through the secret tunnel? You hear Clint Capella knocking at the door, going the other way. They're really trying to distract the Clippers.
There.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like an episode of Law and Order or something. I'm just sitting there waiting for the next clue.
I mean, if you're bringing a fight to you got to bring Nene. I mean, come on, man. How do you not bring Nene to your fight?
Well, and that's how you know the NBA has risen, so much. When it's 1:30 in the morning on like a Monday or Tuesday, whatever night it was, and that's, the biggest news. Everyone's talking about it on Twitter. It's on the news the next day. It's in the papers. Everyone's talking about it. That's how you know the NBA has really risen to be one of the top sports right now.
And the funny thing I heard on Inside the NBA last night is they did not go after Patrick Beverly. That's a bad dude, so they might want to leave him alone.
Nah, we don't mess with Pat.
They went after Austin Rivers.
Yeah, he was talking Pat Bev. He was talking stuff on Twitter afterwards too. So
he's always talking. No, he's always like he's one of those just pit bulls you want on your team. You want that guy on your team because he's feisty. He's not going to back down from anybody, even though he's like 6'1". Yeah. I mean, he's not backing down from anybody. So
and his injury right now, injury or not, he's coming.
He don't
for
care.
you.
He got a cast on him. And he'll smack you with it.
There was a Flalo threw a punch at a big man in another game. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff, and I know the past few years people have complained the NBA's soft, like players don't care enough. They're all buddy, and now they're not. And everybody's freaking out. It's like, what do you want? Do you want them to be buddy? You want them to hate each other? Because right now they don't like each other very much. It's pretty fun to watch, in my opinion. Because you know what? It's almost like went to a fight and a basketball game broke out. You're like, that was kind of cool. So it's like every once in a while you kind of need that animosity to help stir up in the middle. I mean, we're in January right now. All the better teams are kind of feeling themselves out. Right now the Cavs are a mess. I mean, so it's kind of good to see this back and forth. Give the league more storylines, even if it's not the best publicity because there's fighting on the floor.
Yeah, well, give me Bill Laimbeer back. Guys that he's taking guys out of the air when they're going for layups.
Staring them down.
Yeah, we want to see the bad boy Pistons in today's
for real
NBA.
though.
Jordan
for
rules.
Real though.
And I like it because, like, you know what? That little back and forth where Embiid talks trash to Boogie Cousins or Zach Randolph or something like that, and they go back at each other during the game. That's fun to watch. You know what? You don't have to be buddy. It's okay if some guys are friends in the league. That's going to happen because they're all in the same industry. It's a pretty close knit community. But you know what? When you get that close, there's going to be animosity to players leaving certain teams for certain reasons. So I love seeing all this right now. The anger towards each other, even though right now it's kind of spilling over and the refs are kind of getting involved. And it's like, I don't know really what side to take there. And the refs are getting some quick tees because they want to try to control the situation, but then it only makes it worse. And the players are even more mad. They get technically teed up for what they think is nothing. So it's back and forth. the players and the refs, you ever watch play a basketball game, you want some communication with the ref, like, okay, what did I do wrong that time? Sometimes your tone can be wrong. I've done that before. Your tone is really wrong. The refs don't like to talk to you after that. But if you just go like, hey, what did I do wrong there? Like, what? I didn't even do anything. What did I do? I know everybody always says, I didn't touch it. What are you talking about? And you look at the replay, and they tackled him. It's like, yeah, okay. So I think there's
like
just
pass interference.
Exactly.
In the
There's going to be more communication between the players and the refs to kind of communicate and what the ref's saying, what the player's doing. So there's less animosity. Because if you're trying to talk to a ref and he just walks away from you, just ignores you, that would make me mad as a player. Like, you're just going to ignore me straight up here. Like, you're not going to even talk to me what I did wrong. Like, what's your problem? Like, back and forth. So that's one thing the league needs to fix quickly here, so that's then become an ongoing issue into the playoffs. That's when things really get high intensity, and that happens. You don't want something bad to happen on the court between refs and players and stuff like that. You already kind of saw that with the one ref with Sean Livingston when they went
Headbutt him.
headbutted. Like, you can't have that. You just can't have that. So just kind of interesting to see what's going on there. One thing I want to look at, and I looked at it, the Clippers would not be actually facing the Houston in the first round, but it's close. Right now, the Western matchups would be Warriors-Clippers. They don't like each other either. Rockets-Pelicans, Spurs-Blazers, and Thunder-T-Wolves. Right now would be the first round matchups in the West. Some decent matchup. That T-Wolves-Thunder game would be pretty serious. It'd be pretty interesting to see what happened between those two squads out west. And then the East right now would be Celtics-Sixers, Raptors-Bucks, Cavs-Pacers, Heat-Wizards. Much as rap the East gets for not being very good, the matchups there between the lower seeds and the higher seeds, they match up pretty well. We saw the Sixers and the Celtics last night, and that was a fun game back and forth. The Sixers ended up winning that one. But I just like where the NBA is going right now because there's so many, we talked about this last week, so many young stars who are so fun to watch on each one of these, even the smaller market franchises, which is what we need in the NBA to get that league-wide interest up a little bit. Because you have teams that are just bad. It's like, oh, I don't want to watch that team at all. But if they have at least one or two stars, like, okay, they're a fun team to watch. They don't win a whole lot, but you know what? They're at least competitive, and they could win tonight. So it's fun to see that.
And I think you look at a team like Minnesota, and Minnesota's never been a basketball market. Like even when Garnett was in Minnesota, it wasn't a basketball market. Minnesota's always been a football market.
Play with them.
Yeah, Minnesota's always been a football market, and so this team of Wiggins and Butler and Karl Anthony Towns is really bringing the Timberwolves to the forefront in Minnesota right now. I mean, it doesn't help them that the Vikings are in the NFC Championship game right now, but you know, it's brought the Timberwolves closer toward the top of the minds of Minnesota sports fans. Whereas now, you know, it was at times Vikings, Twins, Wild, then the Timberwolves. Now I think Timberwolves are just second to the Vikings. They've kind of surpassed the Twins. Obviously, they've surpassed the Wild in the minds of Minnesota sports fans, and I think that's great for the NBA and the markets that aren't necessarily basketball markets.
I think it's very important that teams – I think it's a good job that teams are surrounding their young players with veteran players. Like a team like the Timberwolves, they have like Jamal Crawford, can't really think of
Taj
anybody.
Gibson.
Yeah, just
some dudes.
Just some good veterans on that team to lead your young players for the future. So I think teams have really been doing a good job of that.
Jeff Teague.
Yeah, right.
Just good veteran players who can teach the younger guys what they need to do to night in, night out.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think before the season started, like you said, as it stands right now, the T-Wolves would face the Thunder. And I know we're really far out, but say that does happen and the T-Wolves do pull off the upset and beat the Thunder. I think before the season, a lot of people were, thinking, can the Thunder beat the Warriors? Can the Thunder beat, the Rockets? Do they have enough power? Yeah. Can they beat the Spurs? And now I think if the Timberwolves do that, that'd just be really good for the franchise as a whole, and they could really possibly draw in even more role players after the season ends. If they know that they can beat a top team like the Thunder.
Well, let me go ahead and talk about the Thunder just because I feel like they are built for the playoffs instead of the regular season. It took a second for them to get going. They're finally starting to win games consistently, and Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony are getting their shots, and Carmelo's finally taking that role of I'm just going to spot up and shoot or catching the post every now and then, and Russell Westbrook is doing whatever he's doing. And I think that team is really built for the playoffs just because when it comes to playoffs, the game really slows down. Is more like I'm gonna get the ball to my star player and hopefully he makes a shot for us. And they have three guys that could do that. So I wouldn't be surprised. Don't be surprised if the Thunder move up a spot just because Kawhi Leonard is hurt.
And definitely, and right now Minnesota's at 4 seed, so they're closest to the Spurs. But the OKC can make a run here, and if that series does happen, to see Steven Adams versus Karl Anthony Towns in the playoffs would be a fun matchup back and forth. with those guys. Definitely going at each other also with Butler and George, and you got Wiggins in there who could possibly every once in a while match up against Westbrook, try to slow him down. Also, looks like Cleveland's playing OKC here coming up tomorrow, and they asked Russell Westbrook on LeBron possibly hitting his 30,000th point in the game tomorrow. He said, "That's crazy, man. That's a lot of damn points." I just love Westbrook and his just bluntness about some of that stuff. Like, he didn't care about being not named an All-Star starter because if you look at who he's going against, it's Steph and Harden. That's really hard to get in there. In the East, he's an All-Star. He's over Kyrie and DeRozan. So it's not like he's not one of the best 5 players in the league. I mean, it's just that position's really tight-heavy in the West. I mean, you look at even guys like Damian Lillard who can't get an All-Star nod, even though he's one of the better point guards in the league. So, yeah, that's what's going on right now in Oklahoma City. I feel like there was something else that happened. Of course, you still have the Paul Pierce thing going on. And was it Jalen Rose who was on the show with Paul Pierce and called him petty to his face? That was just great. And then Paul Pierce came back later and was like, I got 81 reasons why I can be petty. And it's like just back and forth. It's just great.
That joke's about being overused now.
It's about being overused.
I'm kind of tired of I'm sure Jalen Rose is kind of tired of that too.
Like when NBA came on Sports, and it was like, I'm about 81% right now. And Jalen's on set. It's like, that's just perfect because there's back and forth with him on that one. I think we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about what we're going to watch this weekend. Up next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And welcome back into the Weekend Sports Kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson, joined by Ryan Elliott and the dynamic duo of Perry Randle and Noah Cooper. As we're going to do what we're going to watch this weekend. And, of course, we just talked about the NBA, so I'll kind of go first here. Of course, with the NFL, watching the 2 championship games between the Jaguars and Patriots on CBS, and then Vikings-Eagles on Fox. But also this weekend, I'm going to catch a little bit of Thunders-Cavs, as well as Warriors-Rockets. Might also catch on some Bucks-Sixers on Saturday. So a lot of good games in the NBA this weekend as well, and also maybe a little bit of college basketball team, depending on what's on ESPN this next weekend.
I think
Ryan?
I'm looking at obviously the title games in the NFL. I mean, it's hard not to watch those at this point, especially when I'm excited to watch the Jags beat Tom Brady. That'll be fun.
I'm hoping.
The injured Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, and it'll be interesting to
wear a
see.
glove?
It'll be interesting to see how much of an effect that's going to have, if any. Well, we were talking on the show earlier that as a quarterback, your throwing hand has to be 100%. If it's any less than 100%, it's going to affect something. So it'll be interesting to see if it's actually 100% or if he's, if he actually is legitimately hurt on that right hand. So then I'll watch a little bit of college basketball. I mean, I'm going to watch Kansas Baylor over the weekend.
Watch Scott Drew screw it up.
Oh, well, yeah. And I'm going to watch. It'll be interesting to see Zion Williamson make his decision tomorrow.
Right.
Where do you think he goes?
I'd love to see him go to Kansas, but
realistically,
honestly,
though, where he goes?
I mean, it's looking like the favorite right now is Clemson.
I hope so.
But if it's not Clemson, then it's either Kansas or Kentucky. And so
South Carolina.
I'd love to see him go to Kansas, but I think if you had to pick someone as a favorite right now, it'd be Clemson.
I got him going to Kentucky, just because that's a big
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Hey, that just seems to me where all the best high school players end up going, like Marvin Bagley.
That's true. Although he went
Duke.
to Duke.
Right. Oh, I'm tripping. My bad.
But no, honestly,
blood.
yes.
Hey,
Kentucky.
One of those 2 schools. That's what I meant. One of those 2 schools.
Historically, Kentucky is the place for the top recruits. I mean, Duke gets a few of them, but Kentucky is the place. They haven't done that this year, but historically, it's usually Kentucky. I think that gives them an advantage in a lot of those.
And I think just because those 2 top-tier coaches, I think that would be a big influence, of course, on any player. But just a player that stature, he could get even better with those 2 coaches. I think he'll go to one of those 2 schools, Duke or Kentucky.
Yeah.
All right, what are you watching this weekend, Perry?
I'm going to have to, like we already said, those title games for sure. But as far as those title games, I'm going to pick Patriots, Jags, just because – Tom Brady is the greatest of all time, and I like watching GOATs do GOAT things. So I'm going to watch that game for sure, and I think the hurt hand is a good narrative for that game just to see how he does. But I don't buy it at all that his hand is hurt or anything like that. I think he'll still have a great game against that defense. So I think that'll be a great game. And then as far as the NBA, I'm definitely saying the Rockets versus the Warriors. Of course, you got the Cavs in OKC, and I think the Cavs will right the ship later on in the season, so I'm not really concerned about that game. But the Rockets versus Warriors, this will be the first game since opening night that both teams will be healthy. And even that first game, Chris Paul got hurt late in that third quarter. So hopefully this will be the first time we get to see these top two teams in the West be both healthy, and it's a lot of high scoring. So I think it will be a good game.
Noah?
Yeah, I'm pretty much exactly with Perry here. I'm definitely going to be watching the Rockets and the Warriors. It'll be interesting to see if the Rockets can pull it off again because they've already done it this year. But, I mean, Sunday it's going to be mostly all about football for me. I'm definitely going to be watching the Patriots-Jags, definitely going to be all over the Eagles-Vikings game, and I'm looking forward to a great weekend.
Yeah, it should be a fun weekend of sports. Coming up here, of course, Warriors-Rockets, 7:30 on ABC on Saturday if you're interested in that game at all. I think there were some games on Sunday as well. The NBA's not going to go against NFL, sorry. It's on Monday. There's TNT games. Never mind, I'm lying to everybody. It's Tuesdays.
Yeah, players only.
Yep, players only. It's going to be Cavs, Spurs, and Celtics-Lakers. So we'll see if Lonzo's back in time for that Lakers-Celtics game. 'Cause if not, the Lakers aren't watchable. So
the Spurs are really hurting me right now. I feel like Kawhi needs to be there for them to beat them.
For long-term success there. They can win short-term without him, but long-term, they need their all-star there to succeed.
Because even LaMarcus Aldridge, he doesn't seem like he really has his head right. He asked for a trade earlier this season from the reports, and I think they're just not themselves right now. So I think the Spurs are really hurting me right now.
Yep, so that's what's going on there. Also, just want to say you guys are on a podcast together. It's going to be up on X106 YouTube, or X106 Sports YouTube channel. You guys talking mainly NBA, right? That's pretty much your podcast there. Also, we have Ryan and Evan Brown. What do you guys talk about this past week, or what are you going to talk about?
We'll cover some college basketball. Really, a lot of college basketball, and we'll dive into the NFL situation.
Okay, that's what they're going to be
set for the Pro Bowl.
Nice, everybody's ready for the Pro Bowl. And then, of course, we have Austin Hall, Trevor Mater, and Luke Peterson, our other podcast. Not sure what they're going to talk about yet, but we'll get that up for you as well sometime before next Wednesday. And all those podcasts, if you want to check us out on YouTube at X106 Sports, we have a lot of good stuff going on there. The show as well will be up there. Of course, Northwest Sports, they had losses against Kearney yesterday. They're going to Fort Hays, play at 2 and 4 o'clock tomorrow. So that's if you want to check in there. Live stats will be up and everything there. And, of course, what, Caleb? What are you pointing me over there for? All right, we're not done yet. Next.
Hey, man, let me give a shout-out real quick.
What up?
Me and Noah got a show coming out, hopefully. Dropping Dimes, so be on lookout for Noah Cooper and P. Randle Dropping Dimes. So be on lookout for that show.
Hey, we just gotta get it approved.
Yeah, we got to get it approved first, so be on the lookout for that.
All right, so more sports shows coming next month. I love seeing the next. For a long time, all we had was WSK. Then a couple of semesters ago, I started Friday Take in the morning. And then, of course, you guys are going to do Dropping Dimes. Going to try to get that approved. And, of course, they have good old wrestling coming out on Friday nights. They got some wrestling at 8 o'clock p.m. So Friday, a lot of sports talk coming out. So it should be fun. And, of course, next Saturday, January 27th, Northwest Missouri State Bearcat basketball teams host rival Missouri Western. Wear your cleanest white shirt to Bearcat Arena for the annual Whiteout game. The women's game starts at 1:30 with the men following at 3:30. Prizes and giveaways will be available at the game. So that's what's going on next Saturday. No game on Thursday for the basketball team. Just next Saturday versus Missouri Western. Should be a fun game. Our boy Ryan here will be on the call with Jenny James for that game, as they're going to be calling that one, and right from Bearcat Arena into your cars and living rooms from the radio dial. So that's what we have coming up for you guys. We're going to end the show a bit early today because, well,
real quick,
what do you got for us?
Before we end,
Please do.
Just a little bit of new MLB trade news. The St. Louis Cardinals have sent Randle Grichuk to the Blue Jays in exchange for right-handed pitchers Dominic Leone and Connor Green, a pair of bullpen pitchers. Leone, the 26-year-old, played in 65 games for the Blue Jays last year, had a 2.56 ERA, a 1.05 WHIP, and 81 Ks in 70 innings pitched out of the bullpen. So a solid bullpen arm to go to St. Louis in exchange for that's sort of an extra outfielder for the Cardinals that heads to Toronto.
Yeah, because they had Ozuna, Fowler, and Pham as starters this year. He's going to be their fourth outfielder, and he didn't want to
Sierra now becomes the fourth outfielder for the Cardinals.
Yeah, he didn't want to be that fourth guy. He didn't want to be just part of that platoon out there. So he said he wanted to go somewhere he could play right away. And, of course, last year he had 22 home runs, had 59 RBIs and 25 doubles in 122 games. He's 26 years old. So Blue Jays getting a little bit of an upside there with Grichuk, and the Cardinals get some bullpen relief and another minor league pitcher. So nice move there. So finally the hot stove may be heating up just a bit here, trying to get stuff going in baseball 'cause it's really slow. Really slow right now. I know everybody in Kansas City is still waiting for the Moose Hosmer Kane stuff to finally figure itself out there in Kansas City, but
Overpaying him.
Hey, believe it or not, I'm not a Kansas City fan.
you're not?
Nope. So
Baseball.
don't be surprised when the Dodgers win it next year.
Oh, Dodgers fan. All right. Just
Don't
don't play the Cardinals.
Bandwagoner, I see.
Just don't play the
Don't play
Cardinals.
the Cardinals in the playoffs.
You don't play the Cardinals in the playoffs, you don't win those. We know this.
Bandwagoner Perry over
Stop
here.
it. Stop it. Stop
Well, he's
it.
also a Lakers fan, so he's got that LA thing.
I'm not a Lakers fan.
You're not a
I'm
Lakers
a
fan?
Kobe Bryant fan.
Well, that's wrong.
My favorite.
Big
My
Bryant
favorite
fan.
team is
Says the
Sacramento-
LeBron fan.
Hey, my favorite team. My favorite team is Sacramento Kings. Let me say that.
All right.
Frank Mason.
Yeah, right.
I just
Mason.
root for the former Jayhawks. That's all.
Bench squad.
It's definitely there. And that's going to be it for our show today, so make sure you check us out next Friday. We've got Friday Take, WSK, good old wrestling, maybe dropping dimes, depending on how it gets approved and everything like that. Also, one
Better
more.
hope it gets approved.
I think so.
It'd be a good
Appreciate
show.
it.
I think
It'd be a
so.
good
I'm
show.
feeling confident right now.
Yeah.
Also, Caleb sent me to this in our last break. Sports Center Facts, LeBron James will start his 14th straight All-Star game, breaking a tie with Bob Cousy for the most consecutive All-Star game starts in NBA history. So this is what LeBron had.
Father time who?
Yeah, he'll catch him sooner or later.
It's rightly
I've
deserved.
Oh,
said that
for
about
sure.
Tom Brady
Right.
too.
It's going to happen.
It's gonna be a while.
Also, I picked the Patriots, but I'm rooting for the Jags this weekend. I
Hey,
couldn't pick against Tom Brady. But I can root against him. That's for sure.
Hey, see, if I were a Jags fan, I'm not sure if I'd want to win. Because do you really want to be stuck with Blake Bortles for the next 5 years if they win this game? Like, do you want to be paying Blake Bortles $19 million a year? I don't know. We saw this happen with Joe Flacco a few years ago.
Sanchez.
Yeah, Joe Flacco had 3 good games in his life, and they won a Super Bowl off of it. And now the Ravens have been stuck with him ever since. And I think they've only made the playoffs like once with a pretty solid defense year in and year out. So I'll be interested to see if the Jags can pull it off or not.
Should be a fun weekend of football and a little bit of basketball here in the national landscape. So that's all we got for you today. Have a good and safe weekend. That's it from us here at the Weekend Sports Kickoff.